You'd think I'd time that eventually correctly, so I wasn't mid-drink by the time we went. But no. Anyway, welcome back to the Dynasty Grind. Thanks for checking us out. We stream every what day is it? Wednesday at 9:30 Eastern EST, whatever that stands for. To talk about Dynasty. In the season, we were talking about what just happened last week and what long-term takeaways we might be able to glean from it in terms of trades or value or who's popping off and who's going to break out in whatever year. Mostly trades. Since it's now technically, I guess, for some of us, at least the off-season or rookie season, I'm expecting a lot of rookie talk. I started ranking rookies. I got my first update, the college database out. If you haven't checked it out, do if you want. It's free. It means nothing to me. It's the stuff I use to rank rookies. And Dynasty Outhouse can't make it tonight, so we have a film grinder in here. Please try not to shun him too hard. He's trying his best, you know. His little legs are kicking. He'll catch up one day. And Zachary from the Dynasty Dummies is in here. If you have rookie questions, like I say, I've just started looking at wide receivers. So I have a few initial ranks, but everything's very liquid right now. Zachary knows everything. If he refuses to answer a question about a rookie, it's because he's just not telling you. So feel free to throw all the questions towards him. In the comment section that you see, I see we already have one. Hey, Pat, how you doing? So we're going to go... I know we're already live. We're going to go live now to the actual show, bring Zach in, and do some rookie conversations. Welcome in. Thanks for checking us out. And let's do that. What are your thoughts on Rashad Penny going forward? Just jumping straight into it, Pat.
Hit me.
That's a long conversation. So, what am I doing with him going forward? I will trade. If he's worth a second-round pick right now, I'm interested. I think running back value is going to continue to decrease until we hit that tip-over point into redraft season, and then it will start to increase again. But your league might function very differently. You have a better idea about your league. But as a generic rule, I will throw a second-round pick at a running back I think can go off most of the time. Especially as we enter rookie season, they become more and more valuable. You might find that easier and easier to do. I think, just to sum up a really personally conflicting conversation, I think he's actually good, and I think the Seahawks suck balls. I think they suck big hairy ball. And I'm not talking about anything rude here. This is a PG family-friendly show. I mean, they go to the beach, they find the nearest beach ball, and they just nom on that beach ball because I don't know. That's just the level we're dealing with. Apparently, they sat on a first-round pick for 3 years to sneakily throw him into the workload that he can actually take on and do well with in a meaningless end of 2022 season. Like, that was the big game plan. I think they suck big beach balls and they should go away. I do not like the Seahawks anymore. That is my take. I mean, screw you, Seahawks. You made me think Jake Anderson was right for 3 years. It was very painful. And Zach said Penny was bad, and I had to just swallow that pill. Apparently, no. He's no worse or better than at least any average NFL running back. So what the frick were you doing for 3 years anyway? Everyone seems to be adjusting on Twitter right now as if, well, now Penny's finally healthy. No, don't let him do it to you, Pat. I have been painstakingly watching this situation. He has had DJ Dallas play while he is a healthy scratch. For lots of running backs, they've decided give it to that guy and just healthy scratch Penny. It has not been a health issue for 100% of this time. This isn't just a now this first round pick's finally healthy. The Seahawks deliberately and intentionally watched Rashad Penny in practice after drafting him in the first round and then just didn't play him. So do I trust having any team player on that team anymore? No. Screw the Seahawks. I don't want their players get out as Seahawks if you care to be on my fantasy team. Obviously, NFL players care about that sort of thing. But I mean, what the hell? What? Yeah, I'm sorry. That was meant to be a summation. I'm very tilted over Rashad Penny. I don't think he's worth any more than a second round pick because there is a huge abundance of risk there. He's a running back. It's the off season. It's January. And again, it's Rashad Penny on the Seahawks. I won't trust it more than that. I think some people are willing to deal him, though, because he could well hit the floor. That could well be an overpay by this time next year. So it's worth tempting if your team's in that situation. Well, Zach, please bring some sanity to my rant. What do you think of Rashad Penny?
I like it. I think that if I am looking to acquire Rashad Penny, I'm going to wait about 3 more weeks. Maybe 4.
Yeah, because the longer you wait on running backs,
not just the running back thing, but if you're trading a pick for him, and I like your second round pick, lot of people are going to come on podcasts like this one and start talking about rookies, and a lot of people are going to be a lot higher on this rookie class than I am. And you and I talked a little bit pre-show where this rookie class feels a lot like 2019 to me, where there are a couple of players up at the top, and then a very big flat tier of and a second round pick in a class where there's a very big flat tier of not great doesn't bother me, especially if you end up with Rashad Penny, who could end up back with the Seahawks, could be their running back 1. Sorry, I don't mean to set you off again if he ends up back with the Seahawks. But
it's okay. I'm just I'm in my happy place. I'm imagining Pete Carroll at the beach with a giant beach ball. Nom 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 nom. That makes me happy. I'm good.
But yeah, I like the kicking the
that
can.
Guy give Rashad Penny 200 carries next year? Yes, he could. I mean, he's sitting on a beach right now going, I'm not to a beach ball. That guy could easily do that. Yeah.
But Penny could be a running back 1 somewhere. He has that ability, and throwing a second round pick at him is not a bad play.
Refreshing to hear. Lakers, I'm assuming you're talking about my database. I don't have a site, man. I'm not. It's just a thing I put out because I like it, and I find I have trouble finding. And a lot of friends help me make it. It goes back to 2000. Pretty much all the players that played in the CFB are the stats you could get. You can find it pinned to my Twitter timeline. It sends you to a Patreon page. Don't panic. No money necessary. It's just it hosts the Google link, and it goes straight to a Google sheet. You can make your own copy of it, or you could just look at it.
You should send version. Pete money though, because it's worth it.
Like you really don't have to.
Everybody that does numbers in this community is using Peter Howard's database. So like
I think some, or they're using Dave.
Who's using yours? So like it's all like that's the thing. Like if you enjoy numbers, if you enjoy this metrics community, you're not gonna pimp yourself out, Peter. So I'll do this for you.
All right.
Like. Peter's metrics are fantastic. His database.
They're not fantastic. That's the thing. They're just the stats. Well, and I do some of the calculations of other people that stats that they've created. Like I've got a source tab, which I actually found the most frustrating to build. Like who came up with breakout age? Turns out it was Sean Siegel. That's not very clearly listed on everyone posting about how they found rookies because of breakout age. Sean Siegel's the first one to really articulate the idea on RotoViz, and I learned about it from John Moore, and so I list his work as well. And like height adjusted speed score, anyone know how to calculate that? Lots of people, but it's not listed anywhere, so I had to go figure it out and then put it in the source and the formula tab. If you're into numbers at all, that kind of stuff, I found difficult to find, so I was just trying to make it easier for us. But the other one, I would suggest FF_Spaceman on Twitter. Dave Wright has got a podcast at Tale 2 Rivals, not a DLF podcast. He also just has a free database of rookie, and I think he's got an NFL one that's free as well. Or that might be behind his Patreon paywall. But I mean, his is not just as good. They're the same thing. We're scraping public stats, doing the calculations that we're all looking for, like Dominator, Breakout Age. And again, I know the work he must put into it because I've done some of it, and some of my friends help me out do the rest of it, like Zeno James at the King James. Again, source tab, check them out, follow them. They're great. And it's just so we can all argue about this stuff on Twitter. That's it. But yeah, I appreciate you trying to pimp me out, Jake. It's not going to happen. Sorry, Zach. I called you Jake. I'm in a very Rashad Penny frame of mind.
That really warms my heart. I don't feel like it's very many people that get called Jake around you.
I got confused by the beard for a second. I thought you had a bigger chin than you do. John McGill, tell me why Davis Mills and Zach Wilson are screaming buys right now, or tell me they're. I don't like. If it's a super flex, it's all they're players I'm interested in a trade if I need a quarterback and I'm getting good value on them. I'm not telling you I'm not targeting them. I would be excited to target David Mills. I love lower drafted guys that pop off. I don't have enough to really wrap my arms around to really think, yeah, this is Russell Wilson the third or whatever. Just ultimately accurate. I think he's definitely better than we expected, so on and so forth. Zach Wilson at this point, just based on career arc, I'm worried because we all spent first round Superflex picks on, and this has not been good. Is he an NFL caliber quarterback? Yeah, man. There's like 32 on the planet. He easily fits into that mold, I think. Only 10 of them seem to be good for our thing, fantasy. Consistently, at least, maybe even 5. So yeah, it's a value conversation. If they're coming cheap, I'm interested in quarterbacks in a Superflex league. I can't tell you I've noticed something about either of them or their career arcs that say you have to buy them. Instead, I'm more worried about Wilson. And Mills, I'm impressed. I think it's fair to say that he had an impressive season coming from where he came from. Zach, do you have any quarterback analysis? I don't at this point.
I think Mills is probably the better buy to me, just because people got him for nothing. I think you may be able to finagle him for a second round pick because people are still not believing in what he did this past year. I think Zach Wilson is going to be a lot tougher to buy. I think you're still going to have to pay up to get Zach Wilson because somebody just spent a top 3 rookie pick last year to get Wilson. He performed a little better in the last couple games with the Jets, even though I'm not buying him as a top 12 quarterback ever. So Wilson is not a player that I'm interested in going out and acquiring because of the acquisition cost. Mills, I think, is a little more palatable.
I would put it this way, especially when I'm targeting players, I think their value or their production is going to go up from where it is perceived right now, right? So what would Zach Wilson have to do that? Basically just not set the field on fire. A Baker Mayfield level season, everyone's going to be like, oh, okay, he's at least worth value in a super flex. So it's a little easy to see that happen. With Mills, he's got a little bit of a higher horse to jump, I guess, is a phrase I just made up, in that he's got to dodge the draft. He's got to get team investment, which he deserves, but teams are they don't like players and they don't care about them. They could easily get Cam Newton in the door because Cam Newton's still good, and then his value drops. Do I think his performance warrants believing that he'll keep outperforming? I do, actually, yeah. But I also don't see Dak Prescott or Russell Wilson, one of these lower drafted players who's just going to pop off and be one of those 5 players we really want. And so both of them are like, if I'm getting them at value, yeah, I could see a path to how that it's worth trading or targeting them right now. But ultimately, they're not the ones I think I'm targeting because I expect that. Tua is maybe a better example of someone I expect that from. Mac Jones, also I think we could have higher expectations for as well. But if you're getting them at value, both I think, yeah, definitely. Just not on my list. I'm not expecting the jump, so I guess that means I'm a hater. Nicholas J, in a 1QB league, should I trade Josh Jacobs and my 203 for Elijah Moore on the 209? In a vacuum, yeah, go for the wide receiver at this point. January,
Yeah, I like that. I might even try Jacobs in like your 3 for Elijah Moore, because I think that I'm looking at this and going, yeah, like I'd trade Jacobs away. My 3rd round pick doesn't matter if it looks like he's getting a value with an extra pick. The 203 is going to be right on the cusp of possibly interesting guys. I mean, not lock guys, but there is a fairly deep 2nd, 3rd tier of wide receivers that somebody is going to be okay in the NFL. It's hard to kind of figure out who at this point, but that 203 gives me just a nit of pause.
Honestly, where my head's at right now, there's always a caveat here. If you can get it less, get it less. And if you can get a better player, get a better player. That's kind of what I was saying about Davis, Mills, and Wilson. I think for the trade value, you could almost get a player I'm more hopeful for. But if I can get better value than that, yeah, I'd take Mills, I'd take Wilson. So Moore is on my target list. He's someone I want to add more to my rosters. So I will say that. And that's why I was just, I would do this trade. But where my head is at trades right now is trade for 2024 picks, honestly. The rookie like Zach said, the season's amping up. I love a lot of players. I have a player list of targets. I'm trying to whittle down a little bit, and there's still too many. It's like 30 wide receivers on it. It's too many. It's surprisingly few in the tiers, but it adds up to a lot. And it's only 5 tiers. But yeah, Elijah Moore is someone I would specifically target this offseason. I think his value is a little muted. Josh Jacobs as a running back is someone that I'd be more willing to trade, especially at this point in the season. They have to dodge a lot more with the draft. And also, top 24 running backs tend to be overvalued by some players in some leagues, as I've found. But all of this is adjusted to what does the person in your league think and what does your team look like. But generically, yeah, I would do that trade. Definitely. David Shaheen, I've met you before and I asked you if you were in a relation before, and I'm going to do it again because I find it funny because I want to meet Adam. He seems pretty cool. What are we doing with Rondale Moore? It's good question. I liked his profile coming in, but he seems kind of like a gadget player by sell hold. Careful with that acronym there. Not acronym, that synonym, that gadget player term. The NFL is seeing a few more players with more versatile skill sets break through. He was used. I don't think he's this gadget. I think he's a good receiver. But let's start from the beginning. His rookie season was good, bordering on good, based on how I judge rookie seasons compared to past rookie seasons when players went on to have good fantasy production from here on out. But it was slightly underwhelming, and so I'm concerned. Especially where he's got this gadget label, though. I think he might be a value this offseason. No one wants someone called a gadget player. Instead, just think of him as a good player. At least he had a borderline good introduction to the NFL. And again, this is where I'd break down that wide receiver isn't a single position. That gadget term, I think, is doing too much work with Rondale Moore. So I'm buying cautiously at good value if I can find it in my league. But ultimately, his rookie season wasn't impressive enough like Elijah Moore was. I don't want to go all in. So I'm offering this note of caution. You need kind of that other person to overreact to the gadget term to get the value. Does that make sense, Zach? Or am I trying to cover all my bases too much here?
Where's your line? Are you giving the 110 for Moore?
I think Elijah Moore should be more valued than Rondale Moore. That's the starting point, so I wouldn't give the same amount. That's right. The start. Would I give the 110 for Rondale Moore? Yeah, I think Rondale Moore is still, especially with NFL stats, or at least borderline good. Right. Easily as good a bet as any wide receiver you're going to get outside the top 3 this year. Yeah. I think there's going to be some players that we don't. That's another conversation. But I think you said 2019. I'm always suspecting a Keenan Allen, DeAndre Hopkins year, where there's that guy in the second actually had a good profile.
There probably will be. Yeah.
And we don't know who that is yet because we have no idea what the NFL draft's going to do, let alone Dynasty ADP. But I'm suspecting a lot of rookie drafted player to be really interesting this year. But I've suspected that a few years in a row now, and it hasn't happened. So I've just fade that. But having said that, honestly, I've only just started looking at wide receivers. I see one I would confidently say, do not trade that guy for Rondale Moore. One. The others, I can see it. Yeah. So you're just dodging the running backs at that point. And I think there's maybe 3 in this class that would heavily be the top first round. Yeah. So anything out pick 5, I'd be pretty interested in. But this is real early for me in my rookie evaluation. We could get to the draft. I'm like, don't trade anything but the 110. So notes of caution. Buy, sell, hold. I would hold is probably where I'm at with Rondale Moore. If he's on my roster, I'm not trading him for his current value. If someone offers me 2 firsts, okay, maybe I think about it if my team sucks. And I would hold is probably my answer here with Moore.
Well, and I think we've gotten to the point now where conventional wisdom says that if a player that everybody liked face plants in his first year, that you trade them right away because the community is slow to take that value dip. But I think there's a misconception that Moore actually face planted, and he didn't quite. Like he didn't start out of the gate sprinting, but he's also not in a puddle on the ground.
I've actually found that a little misrepresented in that, like, the ADP adapts for good and bad seasons fairly accurately, but at the same time, Tyler Boyd rated as having good, so above Rondale Moore's season in his rookie year, and we dropped him 10 rounds in ADP.
We hate slot receivers. Slot receivers.
I'm constantly looking for that same effect. Like, I want to buy Tyler Boyd. Buying Tyler Boyd was the easiest decision in Dynasty I have ever made. And I'm waiting for that again. If that happens to Rondale Moore, if Rondale Moore drops 10 rounds in ADP, all in, go buy Rondale Moore. I don't think, because again, ADP is just better than we think. Everyone thinks, including me, that we're the smartest guy in the room. And so we think ADP is, they're just giving up too early, or they're not giving up early enough. In fact, ADP adjusts fairly accurately, at least to players that have bad seasons in their rookie season. So I'm waiting for rookie ADP to really get a good sense of where the community is. But if it drops by several rounds, I'd be all in on Rondale Moore. As it is, I don't think we're going to react that hard to it. Honestly, there's not a lack of young wide receiver talent, but it drops off fairly quick, and you start thinking Rondale Moore or Keenan Allen. He's already very old.
He's already behind Kadarius Toney in ADP.
Yeah. At which point, we can start buying them all. But for me, and to be fair, on a per attempt basis, Tony had a better season. I just rate the volume a little higher than the efficiency, personally. I meant the database site. My bad if it wasn't clear. Again, no database site. It's just a Google sheet I maintain for myself and anyone else who wants to use it, or Spaceman's. Again, you find it like as our pinned tweet. At PA Howdy is me, and at FF_Spaceman is Dave Wrights. Sorry, it's not a site. I've investigated hosting it on a site. I haven't pulled my finger out to get it done yet. Like, it's not a thing I've done. But no problem. No, you're pretty clear. I understood you, man. Ask any question you want. To be honest. Brother Ross, hey, welcome back. I totally pay for his brain.
I would too. Peter's brain, pay for it.
Oh, sorry. I did not. I was like, I could not put two and two together there. I appreciate it. Yeah, don't pay for the brain, man. I want to refund myself. So, and it was free. So, Wyatt Johnson, what's the best case scenario for Saquon?
It's already happening. It's already happening. Gettleman retired. Joe Judge got canned. They bring in somebody who drafts 2 linemen with their first 2 picks in the first round, and all of a sudden Saquon has some room to run, and life is good. We're going to have to suffer through one more year of Daniel Jones probably, but it's already happening. The wheels are in motion for best case scenario for Saquon.
Someone asked me a question in my Discord today. I have a Discord. Sounds fancy. Ooh. It's not. It's just a place people tell me what's wrong with my sheets, so I have to fix them. That's what's going on today in my life. It's a fun place. But someone was asking for a good comp for Saquon Barkley's career so far. And they were talking about his efficiency. So just real quick, efficiency and running back are not a good mix. Like, we don't have a stat that clearly identifies who's good or bad. You just kind of know it when you see it, and volume is always the best indicator. But I have been building like this tab in my NFL database that like is meant to comp seasons to past players to give you a sense, because other smart people have done it. I'm like, I can do that. I don't have the smarts, but I got the time, right? And the only player it spat out, and again, my comp sheet is nowhere near, like, it's not good yet, but the only thing it could find was Christian McCaffrey. So I was like, that's not bad. Saquon Barkley's on my buy list. And as a again, I'm probably not buying running backs right now, but if I can get a discount on that level of player, like, I think a lot of people are ready to move on with Saquon Barkley. I think it's really interesting. Hopefully that keeps up for the off season when I'm in a position to maybe target running backs a little bit. But I think right now is one of those rare cases that people. I was by Saquon Barkley last year, to be fair, so I've gotten this wrong once already. And I could easily be wrong again. I just don't think we get many opportunities to buy a player who's had that level of production, that level of season at a discount at this age, at this point in his career. I don't think that comes along very often. So I think he's, even right now, an interesting person to send offers on. It's just that general dynasty construction means stacking up running backs right now is a little tough, where you're looking for value and you're looking to maintain that value going forward. Investing in running backs right now can, if especially if you get it wrong, and can put a crimp in it. But he might be a unique exception. I think I went a little too far into that for you. That's where I've been thinking about him a lot today. Not him, not like fantasizing about Saquon Barkley, the man. Just
those quads, Peter.
Well, to be fair, I can see that. I can say, yeah, okay. FF Lefty. Where we at in 2022 rookie eval process? Just released the data. I started to go through like first glance, just some, the columns you like to look at real quick to get a sense. And I started to rank wide receivers. I've got the first 7 or so ranks done. I've changed them only 4 times today, so that's good. And that's where I'm at. I've got a good sense of the top 9 players. I don't have exact ranks, except for Treylon Burks. Like, he was easy. I just put him as tier 1, and moved on to tier 2. That's where I'm at with this class. Zach, how about yourself?
I am hip deep. I am about 22 players in, like 12 receivers and 10 running backs so far that I've watched. And we're going to start doing the Dynasty Dummies
Excited
rookie.
for that.
Sometimes it's a hootenanny, sometimes it's a hoedown, sometimes it's a square dance, but whatever it is, we're starting that next week. We're going to record the first episode on the running backs next Thursday. So
it's one of my must listens, and I'm not promoting everyone. Anyone who's ever listened to me knows I don't do that well, so I just don't do it. But I really enjoy those every year. That's why I try and get a good sense of the class before it turns on, to be honest with you. You don't want to take someone else's opinion. Running backs, I scrolled. That's literally what I've done at running backs. I can say that guy asked you about, he stood out as
Breece Hall,
the one, glancing Breece Hall.
Yep.
And then a really interesting name stuck out, or think interesting because I haven't heard about him. Someone called Sincere something or other.
Yeah, he's on my list of
the total rushing yards and stuff stood out,
but not so. So he is a player that is on my list, and there's also a Pierre that is on my list of guys that I need to watch that I have not yet.
Well, he sounds like the 101.
Yeah.
I can tell you some guy called
Sincere McCormick is the guy you're looking for.
Yeah, that's the fella.
Yeah.
Rashad White is at the top of my pre-draft model. I don't know who that is. I suspect because he's above Breece Hall, he's number 2, and that is wrong because that's probably the only way he gets above Breece Hall is something's being over-adjusted or he was in some sort of inflated situation. I'm guessing.
You should readjust that because he's not there.
Yeah, one of those names you've seen, like, okay, yeah, I can see, yeah.
Well, I mean, people are going to be excited about him. He's a little raw. He's a pretty good pass. He's a pretty good pass catcher. Like,
he's older. He's older. That's why I know.
I've got him at like
points per game in the last 2 years.
6. Yeah. So,
I mean, yeah, he shouldn't be above Breece Hall. That was pretty easy to see, and literally, that's the amount of work I've done on it. So, yeah, that's where I'm at running back. Also, I looked at the tight end tab, and Trey McBride, I guess. And then there's some other names here.
It's tight end. Yeah.
Just looks like Trey McBride, maybe.
I think there are maybe 4 tight ends.
I need to know how big and tall he is. Yeah. Literally. That's about it. And quarterback.
I don't do that yet. Quarterback and tight end are still 5 weeks away from me to even think about.
I have sorted my quarterback tab by completion percentage, so I can tell you Spencer Rattler is the best quarterback in this class, and that's about all the quarterback analysis you're going to hear from me until at least draft. I don't know. Where do you rank CMC in your Dynasty RB rankings? I've got him ranked running back 2.
Yeah,
I think I had him running back 1 for a while, but I got tired of. I did it just to have the argument, and I got tired of the argument, so I put Jonathan Taylor above him. But I've got him at 2.
So my question is 2-3. So you don't have Najee Harris, where he finished in the top 5 and he's young. Whereas McCaffrey is over the hill. McCaffrey's 25, but I was curious whether that was any factor because I have McCaffrey at 2 also. But I tend to be team old guy. Like I just was in a conversation a minute ago on Twitter with Jacob Rickroad, who's at Clutch Fantasy, and somebody was like, 4 of the top 5 players had never had a top running backs this year, had never had a top 12 season, and he's like, yeah, but 9 of the 12 have. And so he's like,
and also 8 of the 12 didn't matter. They didn't help you win. So it was a bad running back year.
It's team old guy and team cheap running back, but McCaffrey has that ability with his receiving to be the running back one, like we talked about last week and probably the week before and maybe the week before that. There are only about 5 guys that have the ability to be the overall running back one, and McCaffrey's one of them.
I have Najee third, to be fair.
Yeah.
And, I have Najee separated out into a second tier, but they're so highly ranked that, second tier is still incredible value. Running back, at least, with Swift, I have Barkley and Henry in that tier as well.
Yep.
That's where I'm at. What was I going to say? This is the way I've been trying to phrase it, talking to people in Discord and stuff. It's before next season starts, Christian McCaffrey versus Jonathan Taylor, running back 1, is going to be a conversation in redraft. And that's the way to think about it with Dynasty. Yeah, I get it. It's Dynasty. We have to maintain value, but we're also trying to win. And if you can get Christian McCaffrey cheaper than Jonathan Taylor, so the discount's significant enough that the value pays for it, then it's really interesting. Christian McCaffrey could be easily projected to be the running back 1 in redraft, because that's the season we'll be playing. So it's about what the value difference is. And I think it's pretty close with Christian McCaffrey that he will be the better running back to add in Dynasty. Right now, probably not. Their value is probably pretty similar. And again, I'm not buying running backs right now, so I'm good. He just asked a simple give me a number question, by the way, and I talked for like 10 minutes. So, good point. I'd rather give him a third.
That was me. I got that.
Yeah. How are we feeling about Trevor Lawrence? Rough year 1. I'm not joking when I just say quarterbacks are difficult, man. Outside of ones that exceptionally stand out one way or the other, I don't like to put a lot of hats and a lot of rings. I will say I'm probably holding on Trevor Lawrence. Everyone that I know that does the hard work of scouting quarterbacks says if Trevor Lawrence isn't good, we don't know what a good quarterback looks like in college. That's the conversation. Right. And so I'm just holding true to that. I would say before the season, my only concern was, will the Jags ruin him? And the comments were, what do you mean ruin him? And I meant this. That team can turn into fire real quick. I'm willing to say this is all the team's fault. I've yet to see a quarterback overcome an entire organization to pull his career back up for fantasy. Now, he himself is probably going to have an NFL career. He's going to get his money and do really good things. Super Bowl on the Jags is probably going to be difficult to achieve. So I'm not going to talk about his actual career prospects. Fantasy, yeah, it's real concerning. But again, we go back to the Zach Wilson conversation. I'm not bailing out just after 1 year, and I don't think any of that was really can be attributed to just his fault after 1 year. So can I add and get a quarterback that I don't have any of these questions about, Kyler Murray or Patrick Mahomes? Sure, that I want to do that. But I'm not bailing out of Trevor Lawrence just yet. I would bail out of Zach Wilson, to be fair. I just take the parachute. But that's because, while the Jets were bad, I don't think they did as poor a job for Wilson as the Jags did setting up Lawrence. And at this point, we're just pure narratives. If you feel differently, like the Jags did a perfectly good job, then yeah, you should go the opposite way. Personally, I feel like a lot of players on that team got a raw deal by the way it was managed. Yeah. Zach?
That was
finally.
I just found myself nodding a lot.
Hey, Calvin. Yeah, well, we stream on a different day, hoping to get to talk to you, and you just never come in. Like, we know you're not busy, man. We see what you're doing. No. Welcome in, Calvin. David Shaheen. I'm not related to Adam Shaheen. I'm half Irish, though, so that counts for something. That counts for a lot, man. That means, that's awesome. I don't know why that's awesome. Actually, I do know why it's awesome, because I've traveled a lot, and I found being Irish is, better than being English. It's like an international passport. Like, there are not a lot of people that are angry at you if you're Irish, whereas with English, we did a lot of bad shit. Everywhere you go. Like, you can find someone that's mad at English people because we do a lot of bad shit. Whereas Irish people, you mostly have bad shit done to you by English people, sorry. So, Well, yeah, that's why I think of being Irish is cool. It's like everyone likes Irish. You find some people that don't like English. I don't know why I'm talking about traveling days. No one cares. Do you think Traylon Burks is a safe pick at 101?
In a super flex, though.
Flex. I don't know. I don't know for the quarterbacks. What do you mean by safe? I would say he's as safe as pick as we can project this far out from any draft class. Yeah, I think he's clearly a very good pick. Clearly receiving prospect. He's probably going to be the wide receiver one in every dynasty rank in ADP. We hit or miss on those, but it's as good a bet as we can make. Outside, as I said to someone else on Twitter, him going in the 7th round to the Jags, yeah, I feel pretty safe about him. I think safe's a good word.
But I think to me, the rub is super flex. And again, I haven't looked at the quarterbacks, but I am assuming that there will be a quarterback taken in the top 6 or 7 picks to a team that needs a quarterback. And so that becomes valuable in a super flex league. So yeah,
I think that's
Burks
true.
I think Burks is great, but don't toss away value just to draft for a wide receiver.
Superflex is the one place where you might draft position of a player, and it's quarterback occasionally. I would say I feel a little more free to just ignore that, because ultimately you take the player you think is more likely to score you more points no matter what the position. I think Traylon Burks is going to be in that conversation, as well as probably the running back one, which is probably cool, and whoever Rattler or whoever the quarterback is. Right. Because honestly, outside of a special quarterback, and we've seen so many young ones come in, I'm starting to think we're maybe going to see a drop-off at some point. We don't get many Kyler Murrays, Patrick Mahomes, who's the other good guy? Down there in Charger land. Justin Herbert. Like, we've had a lot, and we know that they come... Well, we've seen before that they can come in waves. You've got the Drew Brees, Ben Roethlisberger, Peyton Manning type era, and we're kind of seeing a pretty good vision of what that era is going to be for us going forward. How many more are there to add? Impossible to know. But unless I see someone truly special in the quarterback class, I'm okay fading wide receiver or running back in a super flex. But I feel pretty confident about the pick. This far out, yeah, I feel safe with Traylon Burks. But that's because I'm safe saying it this far out. Like, by the time the draft goes by, I could be like, no, you can't hold me to that. He was drafted to Texans or whoever. So, yeah. Difference between Rondell Moore and Terrence Marshall. Well, okay.
Marshall was bad to start with and then continued to be bad. Moore had a good profile and then was okay. Yeah.
I don't know.
I get so much.
I actually have a model. I'm a fancy nerd that rates quarterbacks, rookies to get over a certain amount of volume to even get rated. Rondell Moore got over that volume threshold and ranked like borderline good. Like, think of it as a Tyler Boyd line. You don't have to be freaking Justin Jefferson, pardon me, or Jamar Chase. You just have to have not face planted, to use the term that was used earlier. And Rondell Moore's close enough to that I'm interesting. Terrence Marshall is not. He didn't do anything. Like, he did less than Michael Pittman, but was not injured. He did less than Raquan Treadwell, who was literally taken off the field and benched by week 3, if I remember right, and couldn't get on the field. Like, could he Michael Pittman? Yeah, absolutely. But if you're just looking at what he did in 2021, he did nothing, despite not being injured and being thrown a 20% target share, which was impressive for the first 5 weeks. And then they were just like, even though Robbie Anderson's struggling, it's still better to have Robbie Anderson getting on the field with targets than a brand new, super gigantic, like, none of that is positive. Whereas Rondell Moore was used overly largely as a running back, I'll agree, but he got on the field, he got targets, and he performed pretty well on those targets and maintained getting those targets throughout the season. It's like, I know, it's the difference between one played football and one didn't. That's like night and day to me. Terrence Marshall could easily be good, but he just didn't do anything this year, which was really worrying.
I feel like so many people are hanging on to that evaluation and the 3 games in the preseason where, he blew up and everyone was like, oh, Terrace Marshall is going to be, fantastic. And it was against the 4th string, defense from, Sisters of the Poor School for the Blind. Like it wasn't necessarily an NFL game. And so many people were hanging on to that. And even last year during the evaluation process, like I took so much flack when I posted my top 12 wide receivers and Marshall wasn't in there. Like so many people came up with
receptions this year.
Yeah. And again, like it's
Sorry.
not. Yeah, and it's not. I heard you speak to this the other. Yeah, I heard you speak to this the other day, where like all of these players are good. I mean, they're in the top 1% of the top 1%. Sure. Like they're in the NFL.
Terrence Marshall is better at something than I will literally ever be at anything, no matter how long I did. Like, let's make it real clear.
But
I'm insulting someone who's incredibly talented,
right? But you're comparing them to their peers. Comparing him to his peers, it's night and day. And Rondale Moore's on the cusp of, maybe bailing, and Terrace Marshall is I bailed on him before the draft last year.
And to be fair, I might be suffering from what do they call it, confirmation bias. Like I'm pretty much the only guy who likes stats who didn't see it with Marshall. Like, and I can explain why again, but I think everyone's tired of me saying it at this point. I like bored everyone to death with it. So, like, I'm not surprised. And I think that's the difference. For me, at least, it's like I didn't see him excel, particularly in college, and I'm not seeing him excel in the NFL. Right. It all seems to make 4, but maybe I'm seeing 5. It's true. Because no one's going to say 2021 or 2022 was a normal year for anyone. And there is Michael Pittman. There is Robert Woods, who found a better situation and suddenly excelled, both of who did better in college. But... yeah, it's more than possible because this is a person who's amazing at something. But if you're asking me the difference between this guy who caught the ball 54 times and this guy who caught the ball 17 times despite being healthy, like one had a lot more and one had a lot less. Like it's like the opposite of the league. It's like top and bottom, And Rondale Moore is all right. It's a good question, though, because I don't know where people are at Terrence. I'm just waiting for ADP, So maybe they are close to each other. Because if his value maintains in ADP, that means I probably am missing something. If the majority see something that I don't, and his draft capital's decent. But right now, I expect it to drop, to be honest. Toronto Dave, Toronto FF.
That's not true.
I don't know why I read the whole thing. Hard for Zach to buy Rondale Moore when his roster's in.
I don't have Rondale Moore everywhere because Peter wouldn't trade him to me during the draft, and Rondale Moore was going early second, and I didn't have early picks. Like humble brag.
Well, now you're uncovering the secret. I'm out here stumping up for Rondale Moore over Terrence Marshall because I want you to buy him. Like that's the truth. Really, this is league profiteering going on here. Elijah Mitchell and Jerry Jeudy value. Jerry Jeudy's value has been too high. I thought it was mostly justified for the first few seasons. I liked his college production, but it wasn't overly insane, but that doesn't mean too much. And I made the mistake of believing the tape grinders. That is overall no. He's done well. I just think we've always been buying expectation at this far in. It should probably come down a little bit. It's not going to. He's going to be pretty close. He's young. He hasn't done badly in the NFL. Back to our conversation about Rondale Moore and Terrence Marshall, he was over the good line both of these years. And our expectation is the team situation will suddenly revert. And maybe it'll get better, but teams tend to take a little time to get better. And honestly, I want to say great players or players that produce as we expect Jeudy to do that in bad situations. Like they can. And I feel like we have those expectations for Jeudy. And we're not willing to bring it down a little bit to a good player in a tough situation instead of a great player in a tough situation. Is he great? I mean, even compared to his peers, yes, he's very good. I think expectations have come down. It's too high. What is his value right now? Easily 2 first-round picks plus, because that's what a young wide receiver in Dynasty League roughly costs. Once they're past are they good in the NFL stage? Elijah Mitchell, I expect it to be less. He's a lower drafted wide receiver than the 49ers, who are literally not famous for. It's just literally what they do. Next man up. If he gets injured, then literally whoever's the two behind him is going to be as productive. That's what they've done 2 years straight now. But I have been told, and I'm kind of watching the market a little bit, that we have higher. And I believe that. Elijah Mitchell, I'd be really interested in him if the community doesn't raise his value up that high. If he's a top 24 running back, I think he has top 12 running back in him, kind of a thing. But I think he's actually really high value. But I'm going to ask you, Zach, because I've guessed his value several times on this show, and both times Russ has been like, nope.
I think people
are cottoning on to Elijah Mitchell.
People are very high on Elijah Mitchell, and okay. I've seen a lot on Twitter where people are talking about him as being kind of the unquestioned starter in San Francisco, because San Francisco uses a running back until that running back gets hurt, and then they use the next one, and which is fine. But again, you're betting on a guy with no draft capital to stay atop that throne, and betting on the 49ers not to add other pieces to that backfield. And so, yeah, I think the community at large is a lot higher on Elijah Mitchell than I am. If you have him, he's a guy that I would probably be shopping. As far as Jerry Jeudy, I mean, where are we? We're in the Jerry Jeudy range. I mean, just who are you taking, Jerry Jeudy or Michael Pittman?
Jeudy.
Who are you taking, Jerry Jeudy? I know the answer to this one. Or Marquise Brown?
Brown.
Jeudy or Bateman?
Bateman.
Jeudy or Elijah Moore?
That's a good one. I probably want Elijah Moore there.
Yeah.
Answering from the heart.
Jeudy or Amari Cooper?
Amari Cooper for me.
So right there, all of a sudden, Judy's outside of the top 24 wide receiver. Like, I think his value is going to fall. I think people there are enough young wide receivers who did enough, and he did, little enough.
But you're asking me though.
No, but I think that's pretty. I think that's pretty close to. I think when you see DLF's ADP come out in January, you're going to see Jerry Jeudy be outside of the top 24. I think if they include rookies, you're going to see Treylon Burks be inside the top 24. And so all of a sudden, Jerry Jeudy is potentially a buy. But again, if you can take Jerry Jeudy and turn around and go get Amari Cooper, I'd do that. Like, even though Amari Cooper's 27.
That's the thing. I think he's good. I think he has nothing but upside at this point. We've seen the low, right? Injured season with Drew Lock. It doesn't get harder.
Yeah,
that's true. Juju Smith-Schuster did happen. But I'm not talking about the drop-off. I'm talking about the fact that there's definitely reasons to invest with hope for the future. But ultimately, with a player like that, who I think's been overvalued a little too much, I'm one of the guys above him. Can I take Jeudy out of first and go get me Justin Jefferson, sorry. Or
I don't think you can. I don't think you can. I think.
What do I have to add though? That's not the conversation I'm having if I've got Jeudy on my roster. But Lakers, I hope this is answering what his value is. I have no idea. What his value is the same. Actually, it's always the same answer. It's whatever it is to the person who rosters him in that league. But I'm trying to give you a good sense of where our over and underline is. And I think Zach's right. I mean, if Judy's value has fallen like that, he's a really interesting player. I've seen that not happen for a few years. PFF rank him as the best wide receiver in the league this year, and I don't think people forget that. Like, I expected Chase Claypool's ADP to drop and to be an interesting value. I've since been told by BMI Twitter, not on my watch. So, I get it's hard sometimes. Some players have an aura around them, and I think Jeudy might be one of those. It's kind of why Patrick Mahomes is a QB1 in Dynasty for me, even though easily make an argument for a few others as a QB1. He's got an aura, and one I actually think is the best quarterback. But he's got like this Dynasty aura where even though he hasn't been the QB1, yeah, it's okay. We know. Josh Allen's been it twice, and he just won't unseat him. But anyway, Lakers, I hope that was some value. I feel like I've killed Zach's conversation. Toronto Dave, I rostered Javonte. That's thoughts on Javonte for Saquon. I want the Saquon side. I'd love to Saquon plus. Yeah, that's where I'm at. I have Javonte Smith ranked overly high right now. Well, I thought I did, but again, this is guessing the market. There's very few young running backs who are doing pretty well, who could become that great guy in the future. I don't think he can. I don't think he's Saquon or CMC. I could easily see him be a top 5 running back. He's very good. He's in this league. Melvin Gordon is a thing, but Melvin Gordon's old. Javonte Williams. The take writes itself. I don't have a strong Javonte Williams take. I just think his value is going to skyrocket because of his age, and he's good and not injured. And yeah, that's where I'm at. I will take the older running back I already think is as good, if not better. And in this case, it's Saquon.
Yeah,
that's just not going.
I think you're going to get plus. Like, you will get Saquon plus for him, and you should get Saquon plus for him the way people are valuing Javonte Williams right now. Javonte Williams in the last DLF ADP was running back 4 overall. And Saquon has been on kind of a steady decline, is going, I can't even, I'm scrolling and I can't even find him, but like
right.
that's kind of how it's really interesting to watch the psyche of dynasty players, because when a player gets hurt, that was an uber player, was a player that you thought was going to be a league winner, in air quotes, people take that personally. CMC, same thing. Barkley, the guys who got hurt, who were supposed to be the running back 1, the guy who could score 400 points as a running back in PPR leagues, people take that personally. And so you've seen Saquon's value just nosedive because he had the high ankle sprain and then the ACL, and he hasn't been as good this year. And so you should get a good plus on Javonte, even though I think Saquon is probably a little more talented. Javonte is the new hotness, and Javonte Williams is fantastic. Like, he was my running back 1 last year coming out. Like, he's great. But if Melvin Gordon ends up back in Denver, he's not going to be a running back. He's not going to be the running back 1. So
it's not even that. It's me. And also we were talking about it with, I was talking about it with Judy. It's that play, like Rashad Bateman. Every week, everyone was saying he's about to break out and dominate. It's like, he's been doing well. Like, what are you trying to take credit for? That we already know he's good. Like, you can't be higher, like elevating how high you are on him, because when it happens, you want to be the highest to say, I told you so, when everyone's already telling everyone else so. So, like, Antonio Gibson, J.K. Dobbins, Cam Akers, even if that amazing getting on the field continues to pull through, like, they're all really good, really young running backs who could easily produce a difference-making season, but people can call it for Javonte Williams for 17 weeks straight. And so it feels like his value, like, no matter what it is or when it happens, Melvin Gordon resigning from staying on the team, but 1 week he gets injured. Whenever he has a good season, there's immediately going to be an I told you so parade, even though everyone was telling everyone else the same thing. Because everyone wants to be right, even though it's now impossible to be. And essentially what I'm saying is, like with Judy, I think that means he's easier to trade. There are more teams that are more interested in him, and that carries value.
Well, and not only that, but it's he's not putting up the points to be valued that highly right now. And so not only are there more teams that can sell him, but that will buy him, but you're getting more if your goal is to score points, like you can potentially get more points because this is the new thing. The new thing is we go immediately and rank somebody, in the top 2 or 3. It was the Baker Mayfield a couple years ago. Baker Mayfield's the quarterback 1 because he had 6 good games as a rookie, and we started doing that where we just like run out and plant flags.
No one wants to be the lowest on the young guy who breaks out.
Yeah, but like how often are the young guys the sustained best player in their
certainly not the ones that add value. Like you look at the ones who are surprising in the top 5, it's the old guys, because we're all expecting them to die, basically.
And if you believe in them, go get them in your rookie draft, because that's the cheap. That's like the least expensive that they'll ever be. Once they're in the league and everybody runs out and says, "Oh, Javonte Williams," then you've already lost your value. Unless you have him, then you can sell him.
But does this make sense? What's the difference between Javonte Williams and Travis Etienne?
Javonte Williams is much better.
Yeah, sure.
Like as a player, as a situation, yeah.
Yeah, well, I know we were just talking how terrible the situation was, and so Judy and so Sutton because of Drew Lock on the offense, but we're not making that adjustment for Williams. And I actually think the fact they have 2 phenomenal running backs is partly why, not Drew Lock, that the receiving production is hurting. Right. But I mean, Travis Etienne is coming in as a young, high drafted player. He's coming off an injury. That's a difference. To a terrible team. Same thing. With a veteran on the team who's proven good, and he's going to take up a certain amount of the backfield. I mean, the difference isn't the value difference in Javonte Williams and Travis Etienne right now, which is why Travis Etienne is probably rising at a pretty good target right now. Whereas Javonte Williams, especially as a running back, it's a fucking awful target. You pay through the nose, and if it doesn't happen, nothing but really hurt your team. And if it does happen, you got what you're after. That's it.
The real answer,
no extra value.
The real answer, though, today,
that's what it is. I'm defaulting to points because we're talking about running back, and it's January. That's why.
The real answer to Dave is trade Javonte Williams, but don't trade him for a running back. Don't trade him for Saquon.
Yeah,
you can turn Javonte Williams into. I mean, you might have to put a pick with him, but maybe not. But you can turn him into Justin Jefferson. You could turn him into Jamar Chase. You could turn him into that's when you have a running back like that, a young running back that's valued that way. Unless your team is absolutely stacked at wide receiver and ready to make that push, you don't need that young running back. Go get the young receivers.
I'm glad we talked about this one too long, because we actually came up to a good answer. Yeah, that's what you do. The Saquon trade is good. I think go target those top tier wide receivers with him. Yeah, that's actually the move. What we got? Giddy up. Swap Zeke and Chubb for Burrow. Chubb, Mac for Burrow. Either preference in Superflex. I'd take the quarterbacks. I'd take Burrow. If I had the choice between Burrow and Mac, I'm taking Burrow. And I'd easily put Zeke with Chubb to make up that difference between Mac and Burrow, if that's the question. Zeke Burrow trade in the Superflex.
Yeah. I
think he's saying what trade Chubb for Mac straight up, Chubb and Mac for Burrow, or Zeke and Chubb for Burrow. And I would trade Zeke and Chubb.
I would say I think I would keep Mac as a because he says he's got Russell Wilson and Mac Jones.
Trade Russell Wilson.
Anyway, yeah, I mean you might be able to do that and get Burrow and buy back years, and you might be able to do Russell Wilson. Do you think it's too much to go Russell Wilson and Zeke?
I would, if these trades are on the table, like you're talking with someone and they're interested, I would just pull the trigger on Burrow for Zach and Chubb, and then I would shop Russ around. See what else I can get. If you can trade Ben for anything, I'd trade him for that.
No, but do you think you could get Burrow for Russell Wilson and Zeke? Because I would rather have Burrow, sure. Mac
if I could
Jones,
keep Chubb, that'd be great.
Chubb, Swift, and Mixon than I would any other combination with Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I'd rather keep Chubb. Yeah. I think that's probably a better trade.
Whether or not, I don't know if that'll fly, but that's what I would try to do.
Yeah, offer it. You never know. J Mike, hooting down two-step is apparently
that's the Dynasty Dummies, hooting down two-step with rookies.
I haven't done these comments. It's taking a second. I might be lagging a lot because some of my files are trying to update. Sorry about that. Hang on, let me turn that off. That's why That's why I'm getting lag. Javonte, sincerely a great prospect. Prospect isn't the word at this point, unless we're talking about someone else.
No, he's talking sincere McCormick.
Oh, right, that makes sense. Sincerely, clever. Brian Alicia, Brian, how you doing? Remember me? I'm asking. Yeah, I asked if trading Mixon for the 222 first was a good trade. Well, I got lucky, and those became the 101 and 107. Yeah, nice. I hope we said yes. Thanks for coming back and letting us know. Joe Herbert, I saw a stat today that 69 nice running backs had at least one running back 1 week in the 2021 season. This seems to be a great argument for the zero RB strategy. There are a lot of good arguments this year, especially. Joe Mixon was a top 12 running back. Anyone feel the benefit of that? Like, this year sucked for running back. Just did. Last year did as well.
It's literally play what you're comfortable with, because you can win with whatever strategy. Like, I play zero RB. That's how whenever I do a dynasty startup, it's zero RB. It's wide receiver, and I build my team that way, but you don't have to. So, no. I mean, there are great arguments for it. There are great arguments against it, and play what makes you happy.
I think if everything worked in a vacuum, right? Like, productive struggle is probably the best dynasty startup strategy until it's not.
Right.
Zero running back is empirically the best drafting strategy until it's not, because no draft actually works out in a vacuum. And so we adjust to how the draft goes. ADP is only so good, and then you see Javonte Williams taking the 101 overall, and you're like, well, screw this. Because you have to adjust to what happens in the draft. There are a lot of good arguments for zero running back, and I think, honestly, empirically, it's probably the best overall strategy, but it's never going to work as if we're in a vacuum, unless you draft at significant volume. And that's where that percentage starts making a difference. Having said that, like, if you're a big money player, yeah, it matters. What else was I going to say? My favorite is wide receivers win the flex decision, in that wide receivers score at or above their average points per game in the top 24 more weeks than running back, which means by and large you start wide receivers in the flex, which is counterintuitive to me, because running backs have the floor, but actually they don't, which essentially means a top 24 running back is literally only ever a start, either in a bad injury week, and we've had a lot of those this year, to be fair, or as your running back too. It's literally the value of a tight end, but we're valuing him like a running back with two slots, if you know what I mean. And that's always helped solidify the idea of why zero running back works a lot better in season, in dynasty, not just best ball, not just drafting at volume. But yeah, Zach's absolutely right. It can completely bottom out. I can show you a bunch of zero teams tagged, because there is no perfect strategy. Especially if you're not drafting at volume. We were talking about this last week, Zach. Like, everything works in theory. There's an edge, a percentage difference. But unless you're playing in 75 leagues, you're not going to feel the benefit of that small percentage difference.
And that, to me, I don't mean to hijack things, but that to me is why it's important to understand the different strategies and the theory behind the different strategies. Because when you're in your specific draft, going into a draft saying, I'm going to draft zero RB, is not a great thing, because if the first 5 picks go off and they're all, it's Chase and Jefferson and Lamb and T. Higgins and whoever goes out, Devontae Adams, all of a sudden zero RB that's not the best strategy anymore, because the wide receivers that you would have drafted are gone. So, being able to understand what the strategy is and the theory behind the strategy, the understanding that zero RB is anti-fragility, and that running backs get hurt at a higher rate than wide receiver, and so it's taking. Sorry, I didn't.
I was going to say the only thing I'd add to this is zero running back is the only strategy I've ever seen. Outside of productive, I mean, there are many dynasty strategies, but robust RB, it doesn't cross the threshold for calling it a strategy to me. Because what it was is a bunch of people who figured they can make content by, being against the nerd crowd. So, like, what's the opposite of zero? Robust running back. And then they backfill the logic of what that would mean. There is no tested
value-based drafting and.
Yeah, that's true. Like, but there are very few strategies that are talked about right now that actually have a strategy that has been tested, and here's an actual full-blown strategy. Most of what we talk about is backfilled content to go against the nerds.
That's your rub, though. It's right now because
yeah, absolutely.
A lot of, and I don't mean to like come on DLF and say, because I really respect a lot of the people that work at DLF, but like right now. Oh man,
don't bother respecting me, but yeah,
I respect the heck out of you. But right now, a lot of content is not it's hey, look at this, hey, look at me,
yeah, exactly.
Hey, come click here, and it's not actually actionable. So, but like when I started playing Dynasty, 7 or 8 years ago, there was a lot of thought process in strategy.
Yeah.
There was there was Sean Siegel, and there was value-based drafting, and
great example from the past.
Leo Basiga was doing a lot of stuff with analyzing your league and understanding how people were going to be drafting and their tendencies and that sort. So like,
yeah, I hate to be the word police of Dynasty, but it does, like, especially when I'm just a muggins playing. I've been distracted by these things before. We hear about strategies, and some are just ideas, great ideas.
Right.
But like, we don't even know what the percentage edge is because I mean, I'm not one to put in the work to find out. Neither is the guy who came up with the content idea, but there are strategies, and that's what Zach's saying. Learn the strategies, learn which one is and which one's just a thing people say.
Right.
And zero RB is an actual strategy. It's got logic behind it. I've actually had numerous arguments because I thought call things zero RB that aren't zero RB. Because they're inspired by zero RB, but this draft isn't strictly following the strategy. And that's honestly a fair criticism because it's an exacting strategy. If you don't follow it, you're not technically zero RBing, And I just
you can wave to Aaron. Hey, Aaron.
Sorry. I was just in my being a jerk mode, Brian, I need advice for the 101 and 107. I have Pat Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Michael Carter, and Gibson to build around. I really don't know right now. As long as your draft isn't before the NFL draft, don't plan it out too much. That would honestly be my advice. See where the NFL draft lands, see where the ranks land, plan accordingly. Right now, if I'm going to tell you, it's Breece Hall and Trayvon Burke seem like the best two to choose from at that 101 spot. The 107 is kind of any man's game. If it's a super flex, and I think you said it was, I don't know. I really have to see the NFL draft. Where does that QB1 go? And how high are the QB evaluators on them?
Yeah, come back and ask in like the beginning of May, because I think the last week of April is the draft, and beginning of May it'll be a lot clearer. And that's the nice thing about Dynasty is we content creators, everyone wants to get out ahead of each other. And, I remember like 3 years ago, the Dynasty Dummies, we were the first ones that had rookie content. And it was like the second week of January and everyone was like, oh, and then all of a sudden, like you had kind of the Devi explosion. And now, I mean, I saw 3 weeks ago, people tweeting out their top 10 or top 50. I'm like, I'll get there at some point. Now I feel like you, Peter. I was just like, yeah, I'll get there.
Yeah, it's okay. Don't worry. By the time we get to your actual rookie draft, guessing when it is, you'll be so sick of rookies. You know it all. But what I would say is there are things. I took your question to be who do I pick, but there are other things you can do with those picks. Dynasty strategy wise, I would investigate trades to move to 2023. I think we're a little late, but it's still worth looking at. Outside of that, if you're building, look at 2024. I'm not kidding. That's when this happens. and by the time everyone's saying it on Twitter, it's too late.
Yeah.
That's the rub none of the youth chasers tell you. You need to be chasing it way too early to actually get involved in it. So it's 2024 right now for you. However, looking at those players on your team, I think you're competitive next year. So I don't think you're necessarily just blowing it up and building. Like, you've got a wide receiver one there, the quarterback one, for my opinion. I think Carter and Gibson are a solid running back core.
Yeah.
So I think you're competitive this year. I don't think you have to think that longer term. But if you want to play your Dynasty League that way, yeah, you could think about trading, because value's a thing, and moving some of that to 23, 24 if you have to. I wouldn't give up that 101 pick for nothing until we get very close to the draft.
Yeah, and if it's a super flex league, then that 101 is going to be worth more ostensibly, because in most super flex leagues I'm in,
it's going to be a quarterback.
Yeah, so this is the thing that irks me about super flex leagues, and everyone pushes back, but super flex creates artificial value with quarterback. Yes, like it's what it does, and so it doesn't matter if it's a bad quarterback at the 101. Somebody is going to come pay up because it's a quarterback, and there are only 32 starting quarterbacks, and somebody needs one.
I will say, though, again, because we're not playing at volume, we're just talking about your league. I've tried that, and I've traded back from the 101 because I wanted the running back or the wide receiver, and they went ahead and freaking took the wide receiver. So, like, trading back in an individual league, it doesn't always work. If you're trading back from that 101, don't be because I can get Breece Hall at 103 because quarterback. Like, do it to get value in 23, 24. Right. Because while that makes sense percentage-wise, most people are going to take the quarterback. If they take the running back instead by trading for you, one, what were they thinking? But also, you're just going to scupper yourself. So the only reason to trade back would be to add extra value, not to target a specific player at the 101. But that's the thing. That's going to be the most expensive thing in your league by the time the draft comes around. And I'd just keep riding that wave if you wanted to trade it. I'd be really interested in trading it because I don't want a quarterback. And if you think your league's going to go that way, I think you have value investigating a quarterback plus for that pick. Like, yeah, I think we're getting way too. I'm going to get way too specific if I keep talking about it, and half of it probably wouldn't make sense for your particular league. But that's where my head would be at. I hope it's helpful. FF Lefty, nice, Joe. Yeah, like I said, that's a competitive team. Oh, he was talking about Joe. Yes, I agree. Sorry, I think I've lost the thread here. Giddy up. Dobbins plus what equals Mixon? Mixon plus what equals Dobbins? It's the other way around.
Dynasty. Yeah, I mean, it is in Dynasty, but I think, I don't know. I'm so backwards when it comes to Dynasty, because especially with running backs, because I want the guys who are scoring points. Although right now I don't want either. Again, this is not running back season. This is rookie pick season, wide receiver season.
Well, it's also just Joe Mixon would have to be producing more as a top 12 running back, which he's done twice, right, to actually be a difference maker on your team. And if he's not a difference maker, then just give me the value. Right. And I don't think he's going to produce one of those seasons. But yeah, in most Dynasty leagues, Dobbins would probably trade. Well, I'm not going to say that. I've been on a lot of flea flicker leagues where the exact opposite would be true. I would hold Dobbins to greater value than Mixon personally.
Yeah, and I definitely wouldn't add anything to him to go get Mixon, no, even though I probably prefer Mixon just because I've seen him score.
Yeah.
Whereas everyone is projecting Dobbins to score, but I haven't seen it.
Had a good rookie season. All right. Zach Reed hates J.K. Dobbins.
That's true.
Someone write it down, put it in a tweet. Toronto Dave, I heard RBs who are great pass catchers are better. Have either of you looked into that? No, actually, that's a new idea to me. I'll look into it. FF Lefty, Zach, I honestly think this is a joke. Dave, let me know if you're not. FF Lefty, Zach, have you watched Tyler, that guy?
Algier.
If so, how do you feel about him? Haven't heard much hype, but I was super impressed by his tape. Violent runner, which I guess isn't always a good thing. I mean, I can see how it could be positive and negative.
So he was okay. He's in my probably third tier of running backs. I do have him ahead of Rashad White, Peter. So you can take your model with a grain of salt. But yeah, like
a factor in the Zach score.
Yeah, he is okay, but in spite of being, having 28 receptions, he's not really a natural pass catcher or not a natural route runner. So he kind of gets lost a lot running routes. And for what you said, he's a violent runner. I thought he didn't have as much power as I expected to. He's 5'11", 220, so he looks like he should be a bull, and he's not. He's really kind of a crease runner. And when he gets an open hole, he's got great long speed. Like, he'll house one, but I don't know. He's not. It's not exactly what I was hoping for, and we're going to talk about him, I think, this week on the Dynasty Dummies, because, or maybe it's next week, but the DLF has him in the top 10 in their rookie ranks. So
really,
yeah. So that, like, there is some hype about him, but he's not. I don't think he's going to be a player that I'm going to be really, really excited about. And the other thing, and this doesn't score fantasy points, but it's something you have to look at, is
this a running back of some sort?
Yes, but like blocking, he gets so straight up when he tries to block that he ends up getting just moved out of the way, and I think that that's going to kind of prevent him from doing as much on third down as you'd like to see. So again, he's probably a late second, early third round kind of dart throw type player. But I mean, he had 1,600 yards at BYU, and so people are going to be a little bit excited about him. I just didn't quite see it. You don't have him? 2 L's, ALLGEIER.
No, he wrote it down for me, so I got to check. No, I actually, normally that's a product of not having his date of birth yet, because that's a thing that matters to a nerd. Or at least it's literally how my database runs, but sorry, can't add. Aaron, giddy up. Dobbins in a late first should get it done. That's probably too true, and I would not do it. But yeah, that's probably, I can imagine in most Dynasty leagues that would be a thing. Salvatore. Yeah. Pete, I saw your answer on my poll on Twitter. AJ Brown plus the 212 for the 103 for the 104. AJ Brown in the second for 2 firsts.
Rather have AJ Brown.
You said AJ Brown. Could you follow up why? Yeah. There's literally one wide receiver in this class that I expect to be as good as AJ Brown, and I don't think you get neither one at 103 and 104. I don't think you get in the running back 1 or 2 at 103. So you're looking at the third best running back and the second best wide receiver, who I don't think is anywhere close to AJ Brown. So while I get the too early first, we're so close to draft season, we're starting to put names on these types of picks. And while I'm very early on, I can in a non-super flex, I can see a pretty easy top 3. And so I know roughly where I am. I don't have any AJ Brown expectations for anyone at 103 or 104. And so the value just isn't an issue for me. I'd take AJ Brown. Having said that, draft is coming. I'm going to be surprised by some of these wide receivers who turn out to be AJ, at least one is going to turn out to be AJ Brown that we don't expect, just imagining variants. So yeah, I get the value argument, but if you're asking me straight up for my team, it's like, no, get out of here. That draft's too close. If you're starting to offer me 223 picks, then yeah, because at that point I'm just trading for value and getting rid of a player with injury issues who I expect to be top 12 next year. Right. And I can see it. But if we're talking about this draft, I literally only see so far one player in this class I consider on AJ Brown's level. And I haven't looked at running back, but I suspect there's at least one in there, definitely one, that I would say has the value to move a top 12 wide receiver for that. So if we're talking value, the picks are too soon. And if we're talking player and points, AJ Brown kicks the snot out of everyone at 103 and 104. And that's early, but especially at wide receiver, I'd be very surprised if I'm like, oh, I just uncovered this cell and it's got a new AJ Brown in it. I don't think I'm going to be that surprised by the production. By the players, sure. But if that's expanded on. That answered it, didn't it?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Like, and if you break it down into, to me, the 103 and 104 are coin flips, right?
Yeah.
But you already have, if you're looking for heads, you've already got heads with AJ Brown.
I mean, if I was Dynasty Outhouse, I could play this smarter and say, well, then you trade the 103 and the 104 and you go get, another AJ Brown plus a 23 pick. But I'm not a great trader. And where those picks are so soon, I immediately start thinking of them in terms of players for 2022.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably looking at Isaiah Spiller, and then you may end up with two running backs. You may end up with Walker.
Could be Spiller. That's true.
Yeah, like Spiller and Walker. So it's not the end of the world, but I do think that there is a clear Treylon Burks is the clear one, and I think this is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be a little bit of a strange year that way, where there will be a wide receiver one that is consensus. And we haven't had that in a long time. We haven't had a consensus wide receiver one in probably not since Corey Davis.
Was Jamar Chase not clear?
Chase and Smith were kind of back and forth.
I think once BMI Twitter got involved, I think, but yeah, I see what you mean.
Chase and Smith were back and forth. It literally, I think the last time I remember a clear 101 or number one wide receiver consensus was Corey Davis.
After looking at the 2021 class, my only rock solid takeaway was, if you're only going to get one player in this class, get Jamar Chase. I feel pretty vindicated by that one, to be honest with you. And that was after all my research, and this is before all of it. I feel pretty much the same about Treylon Burks right now.
Yeah. Yep.
And if you're not getting a shot at him in this class, everything's up in the air. So, yeah, that's ultimately my answer. If it's about value, I want picks that are further out. And if you're going to trade for those picks to trade those picks, I think the value's there. 2 firsts is good for a top 12 wide receiver with even with his upside. Because of the injury, a little worrying. I get that. But I'm willing to take that risk, especially for 2022. And those picks are close enough that that's where my head's at on the trade. The value's fair. BJ Lee, Elijah Mitchell, what is good value if you're trading him away? Good question. Well phrased. Not too confident on keeping him the job from. Yeah, I mean, that's the problem, right? That's so what's. No, we tend to talk about value in terms of picks. To be very clear, just because I name picks as value doesn't mean you have to trade picks. In fact, most of the time you shouldn't. Picks are very fluid. They're very valuable in Dynasty. You should try and hold them. But, I mean, we're talking 2 first-round picks. And I'd be real comfortable trading Elijah Mitchell away. If he's in the Joe Mixon category, which is what I suspected from some of my other conversations, where you can get that level of value for him, yeah, I'm trading him away for that. If we could get any of the trades we just mentioned for Joe Mixon for Elijah Mitchell, I'm in. I'm trading Elijah Mitchell away. Anything below that, I'll ride the ride on a good player with low draft capital, because that's my jam. Do you have a better way of explaining what would you trade Elijah Mitchell away for? Do you have a player in mind? Well, that's how the wide receivers.
It's always. I mean, it's always. Anytime we're in this range, it's always Elijah Moore. That's literally the right. We're right there where. If you could, because I think Elijah Moore his time is coming. He is in a very good spot on that Jets team, where even if Zach Wilson is not good, Zach Wilson is going to have to throw a lot, and he will throw a lot to Elijah Moore.
Elijah Johnson, baby.
Huh?
Deontay Johnson, baby.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, it's that. It's that Deontay Johnson. It's that the Jarvis Landry when he was in Miami, and he was it. Yeah. I mean, it was Jamison Crowder 2 years ago. Jamison Crowder was borderline wide receiver 1. It's Jamison Crowder. So yeah, that's the type of player that I'm looking at to trade Elijah Mitchell for, is the young wide receiver on the come up. So Moore, Bateman, that area.
Okay, that's good. The wide receivers I'm interested in that area, like to trade Elijah Mitchell for, plus or minus, depending on where the other player is on that value. I like Javonte Smith the same way I like Elijah
Yes.
Mitchell.
Yep.
Bateman and Moore as well. I think Moore, you get a plus with it. I think Bateman, you have to add to it, which sucks. No one will let me have Bateman as my guy. Everyone's got to be higher, so I'm probably not getting a lot of Bateman. Brandon Nyuk, I'm finally on the buy train because I'm hoping some people jumped off after getting this year completely wrong. I got it right, by the way. I'm really proud of that. And Juju Smith-Schuster. But again, you get a plus with Juju Smith-Schuster. That's why I'm interested in that range. Those are the wide receivers that I see rising in value or potential rises in value that I would target with running backs. That's according to the list I've got here, which I guess I should update. I got other lists, you know. But I think Elijah Moore is easily the most interesting name on that list, probably outside of maybe Javonte Smith. Joe Herbert. I think Garrett Wilson is more technically advanced than Burks. Okay, yeah, I've heard a lot about Wilson. I started to look into him. Clearly, Burks has the athletic advantage. No idea, guy. I'm so far away from knowing anything about how they play. Clearly, Burks has the athletic advantage. Wilson is more bust-proof in my estimation, and a landing spot agnostic POV. That's interesting to know. Let's see, what have I written so far about Wilson? Why not? We'll do that. Because I've started to make notes, which is a thing I wish I'd been doing all along, but I had not, so I just have the last 2 years. Rookie receipts. There it is. Wilson. I really don't have ranks for any guy outside of maybe Burks right now. Here's a note about the wide receiver class as a whole. I like Wilson. I see a lot of positive here, but we're already navel-gazing for upside. There's a strong tier 2-ness to these profiles. For example, I like Garrett Wilson similar to how much I liked Seth Williams last year. I still like Seth, but as a lower drafted prospect behind Sutton, Judy, and Tim Patrick. Don't forget Tim Patrick. We may never know. And the bonus of Wilson is that he was largely playing behind Olave. Someone taught me how to say that name. I hope I'm getting it right. Who was on the team first and was wide receiver 1 before he even got there. We know senior difference is a thing, and that provided a disadvantage for Wilson to getting the larger workload. But despite that, he still showed up. In other words, Wilson was okay production and could be okay because good players mute each other's ceilings. But you can see I'm rambling here as I look through stuff. But still, both were able to co-op large shares of the offense together, which means they look good. Anyway, less broadly, Wilson had an astonishingly good year at 20, above the age curve to slightly below it the year after it. So if you want to squint a leve and see good things, which I do, then we should probably allow Wilson the same kind of leeway or grace in 2021. Yeah, I see a lot of good there, but it's like you say he's a little less landing spot dependent, and I like hearing that because he's someone I want to see what happens in the draft before I would probably have a full opinion of him. Obviously, I'm going to have a rank before then. Just because the production is good, you know. And to be fair, many great players had good production, not outstanding production. I'm not saying it's incapable, but yeah, he ranks as that really interesting tier 2 prospect to me.
It's funny we just talked about AJ Brown and then went into kind of the Burks because like Burks feels a little bit like AJ Brown in the fact that he was pushed inside. He was used primarily out of the slot, but he's very big, very strong, and very good with the ball in his hands. Those were things that watching AJ Brown, it was easy to see that that he would make plays after the catch and be physical after the catch. The funny thing with Burks, though, is I'm not sure if it was him just toying with corners, but he would round a lot of his routes and just barely make the play. Like he would make every play, but like he would let the corner be on him, which was weird. And some guys just do that. Like I played high school ball with a guy that was like, he was such a better athlete than everybody else we played with. He would just mess with people. He would let you get close, and then he would be like, nah, you can't get it. And
I actually know what I'm talking about.
So
different
it's
sport, but
it's hard to tell whether Burks is doing that or
but
not.
they just give you that little bit of hope because they enjoy taking it away.
And as far as Wilson, like Wilson is fast, man. He's fast before, in route. He's fast post catch. He's got the ability to get open quickly with like little slants and things. He's got the ability to work open deep. He does very well finding lanes against zone. We talked about that last week where zones are cheats and guys are playing areas and there are usually diagonal lanes in them that are open. And if a receiver is smart enough to get in there, and Wilson is, and his routes, like his cuts within his routes, are really, really, really sharp. Create separation versus man. I think the things he struggles with are physicality. If a defender gets their hands on him, he can be pressed, and it really struggles. Like he really struggles if he gets knocked off route. And the other thing that he does that, again, it's not going to matter for fantasy football, but it'll matter with the NFL looking at him, is when he drops the ball, it's clusters. So if he has a drop in a game, he's going to have 2 or 3. And it's just like a mental thing. Like you could see him go, oh, I dropped that. And then you could see the next one go, I got to, and so cluster drops. But I like them both. Like Burks is 1, Wilson is my 4 right now. So there's not a lot to choose between them.
Yeah, I think from my ramble, the thing I'm taking it from it, looking at a second time, is that his production was decent. And it's interesting that it was getting decent production with another guy on the team who's also geting decent production. And I've recently learned that there's a significant X factor there last year, which I haven't factored in yet. I literally just learned about that one. But I think that's immensely positive. But still, we're talking about a different level of prospect.
Yeah.
If Tyler Huntley ever gets an opportunity somewhere, do you guys think he could put up Hurts production? Didn't he have that this year, or even better? I think he was decent with the opportunity he was given. Yeah, I think he did well.
Yeah, he's not bad. Well,
I think that's a little insulting to Jalen Hurts. I know you didn't mean it that way, but Jalen Hurts has got a lot of hate around him right now, and most of it's unjustified.
I think Hurts is a better thrower than we are giving him credit for, and look, Huntley, if he gets a starting role and a coach is smart enough to let him use his legs, great. If they Matt Nagy him, then okay. You saw what happened to Justin Fields when you take away his one of his best assets with his mobility. It's not good. So yes, Huntley was one of the guys that I mentioned last week or the week before that I would be looking to buy because he's a quarterback who doesn't have a starting job, but could have a starting job at some point. And so they're cheap to acquire, but have a really big inflation point if they ever get to, a place where they have a job.
I'd say just to switch lanes back to, my actual lane, which is, do I expect anything like that in fantasy? No, I don't. I mean, it's not because of the players, because I hate NFL teams that won't let players succeed. I like Huntley. I don't think that's a career arc we're going to see.
No, it probably won't be.
And that's why it's my lane. I'll bet on the things I can actually know, and it's got nothing to do with the player, or even how good he is, or ranking talent. It's just that would be unusual, which is fine. You can bet on that, especially at his value right now. So don't let my hate sway you too much. But definitely, I think it'd be unusual for him to get that opportunity. Salvatore sold Elijah Mitchell for the 111. I mean,
I'd rather have Mitchell, I think, at that point. But
yeah. But I mean,
I get it.
That pick's going to increase in value. It's liquid. If you can even trade it into the next year or the year after that, you're already winning. To be honest with you, if looking for value, I get that. But I don't think you're going to get anyone at the 111, predictably. That I'd like better than Elijah Mitchell. But I don't think you got hosed on nothing. It's just, we all got to make our own choices. It's fine. 10-team Superflex. Javonte Williams and the 203 for Michael Carter and the 108. 2020
and a 23 first. throw that.
That's
I'd take the Carter and the 23 first,
and that's a smart trade because everyone in that trade, everyone in this room wants Javonte Williams, and what you're doing is building future value into your roster because of the potential risk is a running back. I like, and
honestly, Michael Carter with the Jets, I mean he's a
nice
solid
little throw in
too.
there. Yeah, that's an incredible. That's technically 3 firsts. Yeah. Not that you could probably trade Mitchell for a first a lot of times, but I think it's borderline. Yeah, I like that trade a lot. Smart one. Thanks so much as always. Great brain power you used to have. Yes, Zach does, and I drag the average down. It's fine. Be well. Good night. Thanks, brother. And I'm not like your name's Brother Roz. Like I'm not cool enough to say thanks, brother, outside of it being your name. I get it. Joannes, welcome back. Hey guys. Hey yourself. Joe Herbert. Josh Allen was the first QB to be the QB1 in 2 consecutive years. Yeah. Definitely hoping no one looks up my Josh Allen tweets because, I mean, honestly, though, everything I hear about the person, it seems like a pretty good guy. And he's come from, I love underdogs, man. He was a severe underdog, and I was definitely part of the making him an underdog crowd. So I'm enjoying being owned by him. He's done pretty well. There was a slump there, it felt like at the start of the season. And it quietly, he just blew back up in the second half. Unfortunately, it didn't come through with Diggs, which might make him a buying opportunity. But he's been highly impressive in the NFL. I think that's very easy to say. Mohammed, this man offered me AJ Brown for Taysom Hill for Devontae Adams and Terry. Should I decline that trade offer? AJ Brown and Taysom for Devontae Adams and Terry McLaurin, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is a super flex. But
I think I'd rather have the Adams, Adams and Terry side, but it's close. Yeah,
even in a super flex, I'd say I'm high on AJ Brown. I am higher on Devontae Adams as someone not scared of age, and so that puts me. And I like Terry McLaurin a lot. He disappointed me slightly this year. Not that matters at all, but I really thought he could hit the top 12 this year, and he stayed in the top 24. But that's fine. That's a real nice chaser to get for the age problem of Devontae Adams. So I take the Adams side. And if they're already on your team, decline the offer. Keep whichever way you get Devontae Adams and Terry. Okay, that's what I want. Hold AJ and Terry. I don't think that was the trade. It's AJ Brown for Adams and Terry, so he can't have both. Yeah, just checking. I was reading that right.
But that would be the way. No.
Devontae,
Brown and Devontae Adams. Can we do that?
Yeah, Joannis does too. She's right. Javonte, plus a second round picks for Kyle Pitts. I called him Kyle Pitts. That's right, I did. I like cashing out on Pitts. Don't get me wrong, but again, I'm not doing it for running backs this time of year. They're both young. They're both good. You can get this trade at the start of the season if you need it to. Let's see how the offseason rolls, I would say. Yeah. Don't mind trading Kyle Pitts.
I mean, like, that's the thing. Like, Kyle Pitts' value is not going down. Javonte Williams' value is probably not going down, but it could. But there's a long way to go. Like, if Melvin Gordon re-signs there,
exactly,
that running back 3 or 4 that people have him, on the DLF ADP will probably go down a little bit. And you're going to hear a lot coming into next season. Kyle Pitts literally just had the best rookie season for a tight end in the history of football outside of Mike Ditka. Like so
they're pulling out the Mike Ditka dates. That's how deep we're going.
That's
because they don't want to relate him to Evan Ingram. That's why. I would say running backs have this a more unstable roller coaster through the off season. That's true, but there's also upside in that. Like Melvin Gordon gets hurt. Let's hope not. Tap on wood. Or doesn't re-sign, and suddenly Javonte Williams' value goes up. Whereas not much could happen to Kyle Pitts to put his value up. Right. So it's a risk-reward trade that I'm not so interested in January, but there's an argument for it, and I think you're right. I think it's pretty close. So if you like the side you're getting, I don't think it's a terrible idea to pull the trigger. For me personally, I'm probably taking the Kyle Pitts side because I'm risk-averse. It's that simple. Zach's like, yeah, you can.
I'm just nodding. That was it.
Hey, Kyle, appreciate it. No, well, Dynasty Outhouse isn't here, so I have to paranoia my way through you. Just get used to it. In the FFPC, I've won playing Robust RB. Yeah, sure. When you only have to start 2 wide receivers, it works. It can work. It can work anyway. To be honest with you,
I'll tell you something.
But
My favorite leagues are some of Russ's leagues where it's you have to start one running back, you have to start one receiver, you have to start one tight end, and then just flex the heck out of everything else. And you can build it however you want. And I've seen people win it robust. I've seen people win it 0. It's just it's that to me is a lot of fun. As long as you get your scoring, pretty close to
and have a good commission. Like
that. Yeah, I mean always.
This is an interesting one. Is Ernest Johnson a hidden gem? Every single game, given decent workload, he's underperformed projected points. Hunt may be moving on or whatever. Chubb, the guy I know. Chubb's the guy I know, but he ain't getting any younger. Yeah, I mean, we don't seem to care, nor should we with Chubb. Like, I keep expecting to get value on Chubb, and I never do. No one's fooled. Chubb's great. Ernest Johnson was decent. Honestly, it's the kind of player I'd have to look up. Do I have a database open that I could do that with?
I hope you don't freeze us here. But yeah, I mean, we have talked about this. Like right now, we're not necessarily looking to buy the running backs that are that cost a lot. But D'Ernest Johnson seems like an undervalued running back who
that's what we said. Like if you can get the backup running backs we're all gonna want this time next year, that's the kind of running back I'd trade for. And D'Ernest Johnson could make the list. He wasn't on mine, but that's honestly because I forgot. Like I said, and that doesn't mean anything, but I'm stupid. If you've noticed one that's getting a good workload, and you're going the right way about it, if he's getting decent volume, I think that's the hidden gem you're looking for. If you're expecting Kareem Hunt, you can pull back a little bit. But a running back who is a decent performer behind someone else, if injuries happen and the opportunity opens up, I think that's always a decent target.
It'd be interesting to see what they do with Hunt, though, because
it will be.
I think that they can cut him for no dead money, but he's like a $6 million contract for this year. So I'd have to look that up, but I think it's something like that.
I think this is part of the they got lucky because of everything that happened to get how they did, and I think they like running their offense this way. So it really will be interesting. It'll be telling what they plan going forward. But that also adds to Ernest Johnson. No one's paying attention right now. Ridley Truther, I think he might be on something. They don't give the game away by paying too much. Add him to another trade, kind of a thing. I personally go robust RB out of preference in most leagues, but outside of that, depends on format. Yeah, I think drafting's very... You have a preference, then you get in the draft and you see how the wind blows. You know what I mean? I found myself going heavy running back a lot, and that's not normally how I approach draft going into it. But sometimes you're on that swing pick and you see, 2 running backs that you really want. It's time to pull the trigger. I think the best strategy, not to coin a already well coined and cotton phrase, is the one that's best for the draft that you're in. You got to adjust to the draft. That's always the best draft strategy. Strategists would violently disagree. Just play 100 leagues and but I'm playing with friends for fun mostly these days, so that's where my head's at. If draft doesn't fall my way, usually I think most people I talk to are like this. So I understand this way. I think I prefer the logic of this one. But if this happens in a draft, I'm not gonna ignore it, That's how I've defended a lot of teams as being 0 RB teams, even though they selected a running back. Because that was in the initial article. It was, if you get a round 1 running back in round 3, you don't just not draft him because.
Right.
Because, that's just silly. Being too rigid with it is cutting your nose off to spite your face. I think that's an actual saying.
Be water, Peter.
Be water. There you go. Joannis, I still have Mitchell and J-Rob too. Just because you play robust RB doesn't mean... Yeah, exactly. And everyone's chasing those running backs is a thing.
That's kind of the point that I was talking about, where understanding strategy and understanding the gist behind them. You can utilize pieces of strategy, even if you're not using the whole one. You understand chasing running backs like that can be valuable.
Dave was actually asking if receiving running backs age better. Running backs don't age badly. That's the weird thing. It's a workload management rather than an age thing, according to last person I read studying that was, I think it was guy I mentioned every damn podcast anyway. Football guys. Shit, the names escapes me, but yeah, thank you. It's Adam Harstad's last article I read on it. It's a workload, not it was an age, not a workload thing, I think is his perspective. So it's not a certain number of carries give up. But running backs age better than you think, even into their second contract. I do know that as well. Having said that, yeah, receiving production tends to have better signal. There's just fewer elite runners as well. So it's hard to really know. Like there are fewer Derrick Henrys that you can say, look, they're aging worse. And then there are Chris McCaffreys, Dalvin Cooks, Joe Mixons, those people who collect top 12 seasons with a decent receiving core. But yeah, the other answer, I haven't studied it specifically. I do know receiving efficiency is a hidden signal that Blair Andrews wrote about on RotoViz, whereas being an efficient receiver and expected points, so receiving expected points over expected. Yeah, that's an acronym we could throw out there, Zach. There's like 40 initials in there. Actually tends to project pretty well a player having more volume or better season next year, especially early on. So efficient receivers as a rookie running back, for example, and tends to help guide which running backs are going to get a bigger workload the next season. And Blair says that's slightly underrated based on the way ADP has changed over the last several years. Because Blair's freaking grinder, man. She looks at all of those things at once. And I thought that was interesting. Mostly his efficiency takes have missed. It put him on McCall Hardman, for example, and I've had no ends of fun being on the opposite side of that. But I think it's interesting. Receiving definitely plays a role in it. I think the ultimate question here is, will Derrick Henry age worse than Christian McCaffrey? My answer is probably not. We should probably have the similar expectations from him because it's just in a category that is already hard to track for so few of them. Just,
it's good to be elite.
Yeah, predicting unicorns is a fool's game, but just accepting that unicorns are unicorns is pretty easy. I mean, they got horns. It's pretty. Look
just
at
one.
Horn.
Just one.
Yeah, he came out, horn. Oh, we're good. We don't have to guess. Rockley, sorry. Johannes, he's talking to Johannes. Sorry. I always feel like I'm eavesdropping. Exactly. I always talk up on waiver running backs. That's the thing. Everyone's chasing those running backs. And Zero RB is meant to give you a path on the premium choice of them while also giving you the premium choice of receiving options at the same time. So there's an edge to it. Again, it's where if you play at extreme volume, it's going to work out a higher percentage of times. But if you're playing a league, that percentage of time doesn't necessarily matter, which is why paying attention to the draft helps. I only keep 4 wide receivers in FFPC leagues all year and played in the championship. 4, but it was Cup. Yeah, it helps if you get Cup and Higgins.
I would say Cup scored 3.5 points more than a week than any other receiver. So that helps.
Just saying. I told you to draft Kendrick Bourne. I'm just saying. Jacoby Myers. Kendrick Bourne was right there for free too. I knew no. That's a very poor win. Very poor W to eat on stream. Rob Downs, my 2023 first would be valued as early first. Don't do it's too far out. But okay. Yeah. My roster construction gambit. Should I dangle my 2023 for potential overpay? No, not as a rule. I'm not trading next year's picks, especially in rookie draft season. Like in season, if I'm pushing to win, I bleed picks. Like I've got a lot of teams with no picks. I do, because if I'm pushing to win, I will gladly pay for it. Like I get it. There's a cost to trying to win. It's fine. But if we're just in season and looking for value, now's not the time. I get those trades and I'm like, I don't trade next year's picks right now. I'm holding on to them because they're from here on out. That's why I think we're out the buy 23 pick window in most of my leagues, at least, because people are starting to be interested in them, which means the value's already shifted back or starting to go up, which means it's the time I stop and I'll start thinking about trading them when I'm either pushing to win or during the next draft season. But this is heavily league dependent. That's why the degenerates in my league were trading for 23 picks when our startup happened 3 years ago. Okay, so my league mileage might vary. Zach, does that seem fair to you? It's a very loose rule.
Well, so I think the question that Rob though is asking is if he can transform his team into a competitive roster, then that pick that looks like it would be an early first wouldn't necessarily be an early first, and so. But that, I mean, there are a lot of moving pieces. Like, are if we're moving it for, again, and I hate to go back to beating this drum, but if we're moving it for young, productive wide receivers, great. If you're not, then especially if you don't think your team is competitive, I'd be a lot more open to trading your 22 first that you say you have 22 draft capital. Start trying to move that around once we get closer to the rookie draft when people start getting really excited. I mean,
if you're making Leo Segura type notes in your league and you know there's someone in your league that's going to adjust this hard because he expects that to be then maybe, but you would have to know a lot about your league mates, let alone be right in your prediction.
Right.
And I think that's what Zach's saying with all the ifs in there.
It's so far out. There's so many moving pieces that, unless you're getting a Godfather deal for your 23 first, it doesn't make sense because you're going to get more for it going into the 23 draft than you would now.
I like that you're thinking. I do like that you're thinking deeply.
Yeah.
I think you might have wandered off into the weeds a little bit.
It's Occam's razor. It's usually the simplest solution is the right one. And so, look, you got 22 draft capital. Make those moves now. See if you can get better or get younger, and hang on to your 23 first because it's going to increase in value.
I've always been more Dirk Gently in my Occam's razorness. Like less Sherlock Holmes, more Dirk Gently. The simplest explanation is never the answer. But again. You don't follow don't do what I say. Don't do what I do, okay? Because I LOL in my leagues way too much. Not LOL, I YOLO in my leagues way too much. I'm forgetting the language of the kids. Rockley, Chase was a consensus wide receiver. I feel that way, but Zach usually got a better.
Oh, he says Fantasy Geeks, but it wasn't Fantasy Geeks. Like Javonte Smith was the number one wide receiver in the class last year, according to the people who vote on college football awards. And you didn't see Jamar Chase for an entire year. Like I had Jamar Chase graded out higher than Javonte Smith, but it was a question in multiple circles.
No, I just feel like I be the best candidate to make a Javonte Smith greater than Chase argument, and I did not. But again, Zach's pretty good at remembering.
Fantasy geek.
I am good at rose-tinted glasses. The past, like I don't remember ever liking that, or anyone ever liking that. And Zach tends to be more realist, so he's probably right. Nicholas J, what pick should I ask for? 101. I got Kareem Hunt. Could I try to get Connor for him or ask for a pick? Don't trade for running. Personally, I'm not trading for running backs, even if I'm trading a running back. Not sure what value Hunt is. Hunt's value is probably too low. I think I got him on my, if I can get him in a trade some point this offseason, I'm interested.
Yeah, he's a 0 RB target. Like that's he's almost like the poster boy right now for 0 RB.
Yeah, I got him on Team Old Guy along with like Aaron Jones and Alvin Kamara. Like he's been a top 12 as a running back too. What should you get for him? What would you get for Aaron Jones? I don't think you're getting that. It's like 2 first-round picks, but not in picks because no one's trading picks for all running backs a lot, or at least not 2. Yeah.
Can I go back to Javonte Smith real quick?
Mm-hmm.
The Associated Press honored Javonte Smith as its college football player of the year in 2020. Smith is the first wide receiver to win the award since 1998 when it was created. So it's not just the fantasy geeks. Like Javonte Smith was really good. We still had Chase graded out higher, but there was a conversation.
I just think they should check my ranks. I mean, clearly they could learn a thing or two. But at 101 in a 12-team Superflex, again, we've had this conversation real early. I'm okay reaching for the wide receiver one or the running back one if I feel very confident after the draft in it over a quarterback in a Superflex league. But it is a risky move. It's kind of your YOLO move. But I don't want to take Zach Wilson over Chase. If I feel that confidently in it, then I will. If it's my league. If it's your league, I'm going to tell you, don't do that. Take the quarterback because I don't need you to kill me in my sleep. And normally that wouldn't work out well. Normally you're taking Corey Davis over, I don't know, who's the quarterback in that year? I don't even know. But normally it's the quarterback. But you can. If you want a YOLO, I do sometimes. If you're drafting next week, don't, but also just take the quarterback is probably the sounder advice. Nicholas, best question. I need the same answer.
That was the
cream hunt. Yeah. I hope we gave an answer. I feel like sometimes I don't.
We kind of did. It was. You're not going to get enough.
Yeah, not going to get. I roster him which means if you're just in a situation where you need to get rid of players, look, you need value, your team's struggling, a first-round pick. Get a 23 first-round pick if you definitely can.
No chance you're getting that for Hunt. You're going to have to put a bunch with him to do that. But
that's what I would try for.
Yeah.
If you just need to trade Hunt. Parker Watson, do you think Russ is the best Superflex target this year? Russell Wilson? No. Not personally, no. No, he's great. He's clearly an amazing quarterback. And it's not he drops off the second half of the year. The Seahawks want to run. It's just always an infuriating season with Russell Wilson because of how that team functions. And I'm not projecting him ending up in the Giants or anything like that. I would have better targets in the Superflex League. One that's less. I need him to change teams for it to work out. What were you going to say, Zach?
No, I think that's it. Like you're hoping that Russell Wilson moves, but you've also seen him in a place where he's got two of the best weapons. Like he's got DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett.
Yeah,
I mean, if he goes to the Giants, he's got what? Kadarius Toney.
Hey man, Sterling Shepard. Okay,
I like. I
like Evan Ingram. Guy, I would be really psyched for Evan Ingram if that happened, like unbelievably. But I mean, let me ask you, what's Dak Prescott cost? What's Lamar Jackson cost? Because I heard his value drop recently because his production dropped off a little bit at the end there. Like
people are way out on Prescott, and there may be, especially with the injury and that kind of, there may be Lamar Jackson. So I think you're right. If you're talking about
Jalen Hurts,
targets in Superflex relative to their production and buying back years, it's not Russell Wilson. It's any of those. It's any of those. Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott, Jalen Hurts is a fantastic one because I think he did enough to. There should not be a question as to whether or not he's the starting quarterback in Philadelphia.
I don't think so.
There should
draft
not
picks be damned.
Yeah.
Are you asking me, should you want Russell Wilson on the Superflex? Yeah, I think that's fair. I think his value's a little low. I think there is upside there. And I think Russell Wilson's a fantastic quarterback who can literally put up 40 points in a week. Do I think he's the best trade target? I'm not saying no, but there's a lot of options that could be, so that's not really to slander the take.
Right.
Rock Lee, if I have an early second in 2022, should I take George Pickens? Yeah.
If Pickens is there, you take him. He's my wide receiver 2.
I'm nowhere close to answering this question. I think he's a good prospect. I
don't think he'll be there in that range. I really don't. I think when this all shakes out, he's going to be probably in the 108 to 110, 112. Like, I don't think he's going to get to the early second. Maybe he does, but if he does, yeah,
I think where he's playing, he's more likely to get draft capital, and I think he's going to be one of those ones that's at least a but I'm really projecting hard right now. Like, I literally haven't finished my. So yeah, Yeah, I'd expect him to be higher than that. So yeah, I think David actually has the answer here. That I think David Bell is much more likely to be a second round pick from this point of view right now, without seeing the draft. And yeah, I like David Bell a lot.
Yeah, he's my 3.
Well, you can't get them all right, Zach. I've heard him mentioned before. Do you want to hear about David Bell? Zach's done more research on him. I'll let him lead off.
Yeah, I mean, I did David Bell last week, but he's got very good hands. He's a hands catcher. And what I mean by that is he catches the ball out away from his body. And the reason that's important is because if you bring the ball in close to your body, there's a chance that the ball hits off you and you don't catch it, but also the defender has an easier time knocking the ball out than if you have it away from you and are shielding the ball. He's also really, really good with zone defenses. He's fantastic, finding the gaps in zone, sitting down, giving his quarterback a lane to throw. And for my money, I think that David Bell has tremendous awareness. He seems to always be in the right place. And part of that is understanding zones, but also part of that is knowing when his quarterback is in trouble, working back to him to give him an outlet. And he gets off press coverage. I saw 2 distinct moves off press coverage, which you like to see. The NFL presses a heck of a lot more than guys see in college, but Bell gets off press with a stutter and a jab step with a cross combo. It's really nice. The kind of negatives to his game is Bell is not particularly fast. He's steady. He plays with pace, but he's not a burner. He's not going to outrun people. And sometimes he has trouble separating against man coverage. Again, because he's not fast, because he needs to be a tactician to get open rather than a burner or exceptionally quick.
Yeah, I like him quite a bit. I don't really have ranks yet, but second or third right now before the draft. My main concern with draft capital with him, I need a nose landing spot. I have 2 years where he played over 8 games and he was above the age curve in both. I know I'm talking about stuff you don't care about. Zach's analysis sounds much better, but this is stuff that matters to me, okay? He was better than most prospects at age 18 and age 20. Interestingly enough, at age 19, he was better than most prospects, but he played 6 games because the team played 6 games because it was 2020.
You're going to be in trouble with this 6-game, 8-game.
Actually, not, because his other 2 years were still good. So he ranks pretty well. Here's the thing. 5 players in this class broke out at the 20% threshold at age 18. I know you're already asleep, but this is stuff that matters to me, so shut up. 20% threshold hits at a lower rate than the 30% threshold because you're frankly siphoning down to lower producers than the 30% threshold. That's why it hits better. It's not because it's better to do it. Anyway, RotoViz likes the 30% threshold. How many wide receivers do you think broke out at 19 in the 2022 class at 30% threshold?
1.
Mm-hmm. It's David Bell in the year that I can't count. Like, there's literally 1. Everyone else is 20 or older, in fact. And we're talking Treylon Burks didn't break out at 19 at the 30% threshold. He waited till he was 20. Now, breakout age is an indicator, nothing else. But if you're looking for a difference maker on a profile that's borderline, and in both of those years, he was Pickens, he was Wilson, he was doing well. And it's impressive. Like, I like both of them. But just taking a glance at age 19 seasons, like, well, that's a little different. That's a little something different. The other thing I would say, though, is I'm nervous. I have liked Purdue receivers in the past. And so far, it has not worked out well. And so, again, like 0% hit rate from Purdue so far, all that entire conference. And about 1.8% of players drafted in the first 3 rounds at wide receiver have come from that entire conference. So again, I want. It's not that he needs draft capital to produce, but it would settle me down a lot on Izzy D'Angelo Yancey, who I also like quite a lot. I wrote an article trying to get into RotoViz. This was back in the day. Did not get into RotoViz, you might have noticed. And also, I did get to speak to D'Angelo Yancey's agent at one point, and that was exciting for me. And I still think he was a good player in Purdue, but Purdue itself is kind of a problem. Yeah, that's my David Bell stuff. I think it's really interesting, especially with draft capital. I think if this man gets draft capital, I may need a minute to collect myself, and that's me cleaning the language up. Yeah, I may have said some something else to start with. David Barrier or Char Bonnet. Don't know him yet. Algier?
Both running backs. I talked about Algier earlier. Charbonnet. Is a running back at UCLA. I mean, he's fine. He's okay. He's in that like second tier of okay running backs. I mean, do you want to hear about him? Like, I can do that. I can give you he caught 24 passes, but you're shaking your head like I just want to hear numbers. I don't have a breakout age. Sorry.
Tell me how old they are. David Bell does everything real good. Why can you just say that, Zach? Yeah.
Because I got a creative writing degree that I paid a lot of money for. I need to use more words.
That's fair. Khalil Mack, would you trade Trey Lance for Cooper Kupp?
Yes.
In a 12-team Superflex. Yes.
I would, but most people wouldn't. Most people would say keep the quarterback, but I am not as certain of Trey Lance as I am of Cooper Kupp.
I am not as convinced that Twitter has uncovered the next great quarterback as everyone else on Twitter. Maybe. Yeah. I'm only embarrassed I had to read the whole question before I said yes. Zach is better. Rock Lee, watch some film of Bell.
Now you're speaking my language, Rock. I like it.
It wouldn't help me. Lance way more valuable than Kupp in Dynasty. I think ADP would back you up, but I think I'm definitely out on that.
I'd take the 420 points.
Yep, that's what they tell me. And he can certainly run, and I don't have it. I'm not saying I've never seen anything that says he's bad. It's just we seem to have put him up there. Like we're questioning Jalen Hurts right now. And yet Trey Lance, no one but me has questions about it. And I think that's odd. David, how you doing, bud? You'll enjoy Rock Lee. You'll enjoy the film Rock Lee. Dots and Ross are also fun to watch. There are way too many names in this class that trigger me too much. Like Justin Ross sounds way too much like John Ross. Dotson sounds way too much like Doxson. I'm like, no, never again. Look, he's talking about the running backs you were talking about earlier. You immediately like this guy. Plus he used to be a linebacker. He's probably got the size, then, my guess.
Yeah, it was also a walk-on, which I mean is cool. Yeah.
Lance for the 102 in a Superflex.
I'd rather have Lance in a Superflex than a pick. I would rather have Lance than a pick. I think you can get more for him than the 102.
He did say plus at the end there. Lance plus 102 and any quarterback. There you go. I would take it. I wouldn't need much. I have a habit of leaning in too far when I notice people like the Trey Lance thing. It all makes sense except for the fact you're already valuing as if we know, and like there's no question. And I'm like, that's a mistake. It's like there's a few of them. Like Odell Beckham was literally labeled a red zone receiver in his rookie year early on. And I was like, like we don't label any other guy that tall as a red zone. Normally, it's a big, tall, athletic guy. It's like he can catch. Right. It just made no sense, and it's where I knew people were just trying to backfill what they wanted him to be less of a receiver because he's tiny, basically. And it's like not overly analytical. I agree, but it's where you're clearly noticing everyone is overreaching what they can possibly know, and that means I'm leaning overly in. To be clear, but I'm good. Once I've got the 102, add anything to it, and I'm like, yep, go take your guy.
It's kind of, but it's back to that where we talked about people flag plant and move guys up so fast now. Like the quarterback 8, 9, and 10 are Lawrence, Lance, and Fields. Mm-hmm. Like, and they have all been putrid, but they got high draft capital, and here we go. I mean, and the
one thing I do know is absolutely true. There is a lot of reason to expect Lance can run like a demon. He's very good at many things, and he could easily do that. I'm not disagreeing with the take. I just think his value is as if we'd already seen a rookie season that was pretty decent, and we're not there. But yeah. And that's like the same thing could have been said about Patrick Mahomes, but the thing was Patrick Mahomes popped off at a high conference with the things we like to see as from quarterbacks, whereas Lance is from a lower conference who didn't have those things. He had running. And that's conflicting for me as someone who doesn't know a lot of quarterback takes.
Even Mahomes wasn't the consensus like people like Trubisky more than they like Mahomes coming out because Mahomes
but here we lean
gunslinger.
Into, I'd already identified people were way too personal. I was still doing quarterback analysis at the time.
And that was like I distinctly remember talking about Mahomes. Like Kyle and I traded up to get Mahomes in the Ultimate Dynasty Podcasters League back when that was a thing for us. I think it's still a thing, but we traded up to get Mahomes, and everybody laughed at us when we did.
Yeah.
And then we left the league, so we didn't get the last laugh. But it would have been great.
I literally kind of stopped quarterback after Mahomes because I don't think it's ever going to be like that clear that people are not seeing the truth with that one. Like, I mean, I get Lamar the gadget scheme thing.
Lamar Jackson was similar too.
I wasn't going to identify it as well, but
as a fantasy, like, and that's what Lance is like to me as a fantasy player. Not because I don't have to worry about my NFL team. I'm not drafting a quarterback for my NFL team. You know, Lance probably has enough floor with his legs that he's going to be very good.
That's fair.
Lamar Jackson was great because he like with his legs and then what he does with his arm. But
yeah, I agree completely. It's just you don't have to be much to the left of that take for it suddenly to bomb at that value. Like he can still be good.
Yeah. Oh no, I totally agree.
And still, the value got way too high. And I'm just taking that edge. I'm best when I'm not trying to evaluate talent.
Go get the 102 and Kirk Cousins for Lance and laugh.
Is it offload Mike Williams time? It was a while ago, and I hate to say, you missed your window because it feels like so much after the fact. But honestly, yeah, you could probably still trade Mike Williams significant value, and I think that's pretty good idea. I like Mike Williams a lot, but in Dynasty, there are a lot of reasons he could say it. Also, I tend to believe the second half of the season over that first half of this season. The second half matches the rest of his career, Yeah. Very talented player, clearly. 1 or 2 in this draft isn't good enough to get Lance unless you've got another first and a player. Yeah, sure. I'm just saying I'm on the under. Cool. Here's the thing, Rockley. This is what I'm saying. Everyone feels exactly like you. Like that means I can get those trades anywhere I want to, and I can get what I want, and I'm okay with that with a mystery box. And Lance is still a mystery box. It's like you've got a first round pick, but you can already trade him at hit quarterback value. Like, okay, I'll do it.
We've done this since Carson Wentz came into the league. We've done this. With every quarterback. I remember Carson Wentz was the 101.
Carson Wentz is good, by the way.
But he was the 101.
Like, he's decent in the NFL. He could be... That's what I mean about Trey Lance. He could be good, and carry on. Sorry.
But that's what we do. Like, Carson Wentz came out, had a pretty good rookie year, and he was the 101. Baker Mayfield came out and had 6 games where he was okay, and he was the 102. Like, we want to run out and say, these guys are great. And that's fine if you're the first guy who says that. But if you're the 50th guy who says that, then you're not getting that value. You're paying the price, and there's no wiggle room where, like, if you draft a guy at the quarterback 15 and all of a sudden he becomes the QB3, that's great. If you draft him as the QB1 and he becomes the QB3, that's not as good. And I think that's where, like, Lance, by being the quarterback 8 right now before he has played a full game, there's not a lot of upward mobility there. Mm-hmm. You're kind of drafting him up near his ceiling.
That's kind of like if he's Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, you've doubled your value. His currently what people like Rock are fully willing to do, and I understand the take. Yeah, there's a lot of upside there. If he's Russell Wilson, phenomenal. you've got value. That's it. I was better to trade. Like that's a hell of a high line for a guy I literally haven't seen do nothing yet outside of a college profile. And I will take that. I will read the room instead of trying to believe I know talent when I see it on a spreadsheet or on college tape every time, because I know I'm not the smartest person in the room. I know it for a fact. So I will bet against my ability to evaluate talent and take a certainly good value, and that's okay for me, because the only way quarterbacks makes a drastic difference is that it's like running back, that very top tier, and that's where he pays off at this point. I think. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think that's kind of where his value is. It's where Rock is, and a lot of people, fairly so. The upside's there. He's not. That's the thing. I'm being asked about him on someone else's team. Do not trade Javonte Williams. Yeah, honestly, trading away or trading for running backs at this point, again, like I say, it's not really my style. Elite players can win in multiple ways, and they're that mid-draft and mid-season. Sure, I believe that. I flipped Jamar Chase for Kyle Pitts in the 2020 first and 23 first in a 12-team 1QB PPR league. Was this a fair deal, or did I get over on the guy? Hopefully not. I'm normally trying to help both teams. Let's see. Chase for Pitts in a first.
Pitts and 2 firsts.
Pitts and 2 firsts. I would rather Chase in the rookie season. During the season, I'd rather have Chase, and I still have Chase ranked higher now, so I prefer the Chase side. The 2 first, you got good value on it.
Yeah, I think it's probably a push. I mean,
yeah. That 23 first adds to it.
Yeah,
that's nice. It's all right. It was in the window to trade for 23 first. I think that was a good move. Sutton or Michael Thomas?
Thomas.
MT. Yeah, I'm assuming MT means Michael Thomas. Smash that button, silly geese. Smash all the buttons. You graded Jamar higher because you're a fantasy nerd, not geek. Us nerds are greater than geeks. I would believe it. Nerds are regal.
I consider myself a dummy personally, but
I'm definitely not a nerd then personally. Valid points made, gentlemen. Appreciate your thoughts. I do. Joe Herbert, super. I like you, Joe. Johannes, you smashed that button, Rock. I'm just reading their conversation at this point. I did. Okay, we're moving on. I fully understand that Superflex artificially invades quarterback value. Yeah, I think Zach's got a point there. On pure talent only, I would take a QB over 1.06 in this Superflex rookie draft. Yeah. I was thinking Russ because of how much his value has dropped. If you're finding his value held down in your league, I don't think I've seen a mass devaluation of him yet, though. I could be wrong on that. I mean, yeah, if you're getting Russ cheap, buy players below market value. Yeah, they're very talented, and Russ is definitely that. Also love Hurts, but owner in my league is a Philly fan, so yeah, just rest in peace, that dream. I like your analysis of breakout age, especially now that I'm in a Devi league. Yeah, and check out Travis May, and I think he calls himself Devi Kane now on Twitter. Both of them are well in advance of me. I only come in now. They've been watching for literally years.
Yeah, there's some really good Devi.
Kevin Harris, worth a flyer? Not a player I know yet.
No idea. I haven't got there yet either, so I can't help you, Bob.
Joe, traded Pollard for a first that ended up being a second-round pick. How did that work out? Pollard for a first that ended up being a second.
Oh, the 102. So Pollard for the 102.
Right. Zach, we don't know.
I'd love to talk, Johannes. I would love to, but I haven't watched them yet.
Is there a running? I don't even know what position we're talking about, or I'll look it up at least. I like Deshaun Kaiser more than Mahomes. I liked Deshaun Kaiser. I remember Kaiser. Now you say it.
Oh yeah, that was another one. Name. Everyone was all about. Yeah.
He could run.
Yep.
Will DLF have a Dynasty or Redraft League I can join to play against you guys? DLF itself doesn't have a Dynasty League. They have a forum where people like me and everyone who is a subscriber to DLF or writes for DLF is on there, and they regularly post leagues. If you're interested in playing in leagues, I would say check out Scott Fish's what is it? It's a League Safe page where he lists Safe League where he lists all his leagues, and also John Bosch at John Bosch on Twitter. He's currently got a lot of vacancies in his leagues, and I'm in some of his leagues, and you might find one with me or Zach in it. And be careful with John Bosch leagues. He's got some complicated leagues. But also,
you can get in the deep end real quick.
Which Rock sounds like he could handle. Me, myself, I am over my head in some of the leagues that John has. But yeah, he also has some just regular leagues, and John's an excellent commissioner. And again, people like John's got a whole bunch of people that are better and worse and all sorts of mixes than me in his leagues, including me and Zach. I think we were all in John Bosch leagues. That would be my first go-to to find good leagues. Right now, I'm not adding any. I'll get the itch eventually, but I try to drop leagues before I add them, and I kind of love all my leagues right now, even though I list all of them this year. I was clearly too high on Kaiser. You weren't alone. I mean, quarterback, it's kind of why I let other smarter people deal with it. Quarterback is really tough. I don't think, and that's kind of a Trey Lance thing as well. I don't think it's like getting a quarterback wrong is just understandable. It's a really hard position to call. I think I'm smarter than I am. Taek is Harris is this year's Elijah Mitchell, but so hard to project those day 3 games. That's the thing, though. That's kind of where I like to pretend I might know something. So I love undrafted free agents. I'll play I see something no one else does for a third. Sure.
Right.
Well, that's why I have my fun.
The acquisition cost. It's beautiful. I mean, it was James Robinson 2 years ago where you could get him in the 4th or 5th, and it was fantastic because that was the evaluation was I don't know if he's ever going to play, but if he plays, he's going to be good.
I mean, I've had Marcus Callaway on my roster for 2 years, and it paid off finally. I mean, not to grand effect, but I think his value's even increased now. And this year, who was it? I tell you, I've got a lot of Amon-Ra, but it was a 4th round pick. And there's some other undrafted free agents. I'm hoping next year I might, yay! I mean, and also an awful lot of Seth Williams's and Tyler Johnson's, but at least again, acquisition costs means I can pretend I'm smart for a second. Not Superflex. Would you guys what would you value Stephon Diggs? A top 12 dynasty wide receiver, like significantly high. Is that where you have him?
Yeah, I mean, he's probably right on that kind of 10, 11, 12, that cusp.
Just going to fact check myself there because, I was disappointed.
It moves so fast though, doesn't it?
Yeah, I got him dynasty wide receiver 8.
Yeah. I'm probably a little lower than you are, but I mean, shake it. I haven't done rankings in probably 5 years. So
I think my top 12 is, fairly unique. I mean, I got Deontay Johnson in here. I don't think many people are going to have him top 12. Cooper Kupp, he's old. No one's going to want that. Debo Samuel,
Cooper Kupp's going to be top 12 now. But...
yeah, that's true. But yeah, I got him wide receiver 8. I love the guy. I mean, I think we all know he's good. Is there any word yet on Jameson Williams coming out this year? I
haven't heard anything.
With his injury and everything, I don't know what the decision
it'll probably be. It's the NFL will tell him whether or not he should come out. That'll be a thing. Like they do back channel. They'll talk and say, hey.
It's one of the reasons Josh Allen declared, right? Because Buffalo was like, yeah, we would definitely be interested in you. And that worked out for him. I hope they treat him right, though, because that last year was pretty impressive. He didn't get to play much before that. I don't know, like, not that I would ever know, but dynasty players like to think they should come out early. I don't know what would be best for him with his current production. If the NFL is willing to, take the bet with his injury, he should probably come out.
Yeah, I think that'll be it. It'll be the NFL will tell him if he's going to go in the first couple of rounds, and if he's not, then he'll probably go back. But we don't have I'm not privy to that information. They don't call me up, in Maine and say, hey, just so you know, Jameson Williams declared. Yeah, I haven't heard anything yet.
I tell you what, I'll let you know as soon as they get in touch with me. All right, because they tell me all the time. It's fine. Who's more valuable in Dynasty, Josh Jacobs or Miles Sanders? Push.
It's like two blind men in a knife fight, isn't it? It's probably Jacobs by just a little bit, just because he's like got a workload in producing, but it's a push. They're pretty similar.
And Bob points out Jacobs. Yeah, I think if you were big into Miles Sanders, and I know those are big, Miles Sanders is going to be the thing this year, then those people are probably going to still value Sanders more. I think a lot of people are going to think like Zach. He's already got the workload and he's producing. So that's why I come out at push. And for me, it would be a push. They're very similarly ranked. Patrick Watson, any thoughts on Berrios being relevant? Take it away, Zach. That's his guy, man.
I like
one of his guys.
I love slot receivers, but the way you can tell a slot receiver is going to go off is when everybody else on the team is hurt. I assume that the Jets will have healthy receivers next year, which will relegate Berrios back to where he probably should be, which is behind Elijah Moore and it's the
Berrios is one of those productive, but no one cares where receivers. You should always roster him and play him when the opportunity comes up, which means he's always kind of a value. I mean, I've got Zach Pascal and I've got Kendrick Bourne, and Berrios is probably going to be better at that.
Hunter Renfrow was that guy. Like he looked like he was. It's the same kind of archetype, and yeah, you're going to have times where Berrios is going to be great. I played him last year in the playoffs too. Like 2 years in a row, I'm coming down to Boston Scott and Braxton Berrios and feeling pretty good about
it. Can we keep talking about? I'm dying. Help! Berrios a little while because Joannis wants me to talk about Tutu. No,
I love it.
Look, nothing. His real. I don't understand it. I am due, and I would
4'7",
the same thing.
4'7" is his realistic upside.
I would still do the same thing. But that third round pick missed for sure. You literally didn't use him for anything. So why did you take him in the second round? He didn't perform badly. They didn't even suit him up. I don't know.
He's basically Terrace Marshall.
I'm hoping he's Rashad Penny in 3 years. That's what I got. But no, his realistic upside right now is 0. Yeah. Thanks for hurting me. Rockley, Damian Harris or Josh Jacobs? Josh Jacobs in value, but if you can trade Josh Jacobs for Damian Harris plus, I'm into that this time of year. Sure.
Yeah.
Joannis, Josh Jacobs is underrated, guys. I mean, he is and he isn't because top 24 running backs are overrated. So it balances out for me.
The problem with Jacobs is his usage is what his usage is. Like, it would be great if he can be a pass catcher. He was in college. He can do that, but he hasn't been asked to. So he just is kind of another plotter that needs high volume to be marginally relevant.
Is the upside there because the player's better than he's doing? Yes.
He's good. Yeah, he's fantastic.
Running backs establish their workload quicker, like we were talking about wide receivers and their market adjusting. Running backs actually establish the level of workload they get in an NFL team quicker than we are more willing to adjust for. This was the Antonio Gibson thing, who is going to finish top 12, or did, by the way. Like, everyone was like, he'll get 60% next year. No, 53% is probably what he's going to get because that's what he did his rookie year, and that's what he did. He just did better with it because he's a better player. And also the position kind of slumped. And so his regular production kind of fit in there. So unfortunately, there is upside there, but you're guessing whether an NFL team changes its spots for a year. And I just always take the under on that. That was more than I needed to say about Jacobs, but there we go. Joannis asked. I like talking to Joannis. Ashton, Superflex, Mac Jones or Calvin Ridley?
The guy who's playing quarterback right now. I'm taking Jones. Like, in a normal, like, if Calvin Ridley is back and playing, it's Ridley, but
I will overpay for Calvin Ridley if and when he decides it's the appropriate time to return to the NFL.
Yeah.
Until then, I'm fine taking value for him anything. And Mac Jones is a hell of a value in a Superflex league. That's more than I would expect to get. If that's on the table, I would accept it without much thought. In a 12-team Superflex, would you pay for Deshaun Watson? No, a similar reasoning as well. Like, no. Well, I consider
you're never going to get him for a second.
Yeah,
you're never going to get him for a second, but I would throw a second out there, and if I got him, great. But
no,
yeah,
personally. Jacobs has a solid. He had a great profile, mainly because most of his hope came from the receiving game. That was the upside. Like, he got the rushing work, and we're like, yeah, wait a minute. That was the receiving running back. Like, that's been the story from, like, literally his rookie year. Raiders just don't want to use him that way. Could they? Definitely. He's got the talent.
Took a lot of flack for having David Montgomery on the top of that running back class.
That's the thing, though. Slow. Again, combine fails. Slow don't matter. He's good with it. But, yeah, I digress. Patrick Watson, your great point. Someone made a great point.
That was that was the Berrios. But that is like, it's slot receiver is kind of a perfect storm of a whole bunch of things that need to come together. You have to have a quarterback that gets the ball out quickly. You have to have a team that utilizes a slot receiver in their scheme. You have to have receivers around that aren't driving targets. Like, all of these things have to.
Stop walking me towards a vacation targets argument. I'm not. But yeah,
nah, that's not. No, I like
all of that's accurate. Do you guys play underdog at all? Yeah, I do a lot. Building up to the draft, where I just got that draft thirst on me. I think I won my money back. That's about it. I play for fun, guys. But yeah, I do a lot. Pay attention to Twitter, and you'll certainly get in those leagues. I don't know, Zach. Did you play any underdog?
No, I don't do much for best ball and then DF. I don't mess around with the apps. I'm strictly Dynasty. Like,
I slowed up because I realized everyone else was getting paid to play on underdog and post them, and I was just paying for it out of my, because I thought it was fun. It's fun to draft with everyone. I was like, that sucks. Where's everyone? But yeah, I'll do it again this year. I love fantasy football and drafting, and underdog's so easy to do. So yes, we do. I do. Stop the 2-2 hate, Peter. You liked him. I liked him a lot. I'm not gonna not own that. Najee Harris or DeAndre Swift? Good question. I haven't back to back. I have Harris one spot ahead of Swift.
Yeah, I think they're basically the same.
Yeah. Again, the thing with Swift is the upside is more receiving, but he's established what his workload is, and I kind of accept what a workload is for running back. Harris is much more running dependent, but he also has a higher workload on that team. Right. I do have volume concerns for the team overall, where it's going to go through a lot of shift, working with the best information I have. I wouldn't trade one for the other. I'd be very happy with either. I'm holding. I don't care. Yeah, I mean, there's literally no value in dropping him for nothing, but no one's trading him for anything. So yeah, I mean, I have Rashad Penny on leagues, not because I saw this coming or I was smart enough to hold on, but because I feel like that's my penance. I still have a lot of Tyler Johnsons on a lot of my leagues, N'Keal Harry's on my teams. Like, I'm paying the penance, and Tutu will stay on there for that reason. Patrick Watson, crazy stat this year. Jacobs had the 5th most receptions among running backs in a low running back,
which is gross because that was only like 53 or 4. Like, it's not. Like, this was a terrible, really bad year.
Running
Christian McCaffrey usually has twice that.
I think that's interesting take. I don't really have anything to bring to who's going to outlast the touches.
Yeah, I can't. I don't predict injuries. We pretend like they're not going to get hurt until they do, and then you patch the ship.
I think they're both more durable than me. That's the only thing. But as a tiebreaker, you go with what you can. Exactly, Parker. His receiving has been really good this year. It's been bad in the sense, in the sense that he's capable. What we need, what we would want for Jacobs, was definitely capable of. But yeah, it reads like an upside year. Swift has more value to a lot of people, though. Yeah, I mean, Yeah, Swift has his camp, and so does Harris. I think efficiency Twitter is going to nuke Harris pretty hard.
Yeah.
And he's really inefficient. And Jacobs is only 1 month older than Najee, FYI. I actually didn't know that.
Yeah, Najee came out old. I mean, he was a 4-year guy.
Oh, yeah, I do remember that. It's just when you're on team old guy, you get insulated from a lot of bad takes. Sometimes you just get lucky. You should never just jump off of the first round running back who finishes a running back one as a rookie. I agree. You and me both, Zach. Montgomery greater than Jacobs the whole time for me.
Yep. Yep. A lot of flack. Took a lot of flack for that.
It certainly did.
Montgomery is slow and can't get out of his own way and will never have carries. And
how to work out this year, Zach?
Jordan Howard. Jordan Howard.
Hey, he was good too. Best landing spot for Breece Hall and Isaiah Spiller. Don't know enough about it. I don't know enough about running games to make that projection with the amount I know about him. Breece Hall looks like, as long as I'm going to be pretty happy wherever he lands. Isaiah Spiller, I noticed I've literally glanced, noticed some things on his profile that made me have some questions. It might be landing spot and draft capital dependent, but overall, he looked pretty good. 3 years with 20 plus receptions. You must love him, Zach.
Yeah, I mean, he's good. All 3 seasons, 20 plus receptions, better than average receiver, good route runner. He's got power, but the problem with that is he doesn't mind hitting people. He seeks out contact, which is something that I've learned that I don't like in running backs going into the NFL. It's the old John Kelly corollary, where like it looks really nice in college where he's running over the guy who's a linebacker who's 225 pounds, but linebackers in the NFL are 260, and it's not as pretty.
Tyler Batty and Kenneth Walker are 2 players I'm going to ask you about, by the way. That's interesting you say Spiller that way, because that's way, weirdly, in yards per team attempt, he's above the average for his team and his conference level, but below the average of running backs hits in the NFL. It's weird how that sometimes it lines up to exactly what you say. You know what I mean?
And he gets hit really hard at the second level. Where like, he's got real good burst and he comes flying through the hole. But then when he gets to that level where there are linebackers, he takes some really hard hits. And sometimes and this kind of contributes to taking hits, but sometimes he slows his momentum when he makes a cut, which is not ideal because you're generally making cuts to try to avoid a player. And if you slow down to make that cut, leaves yourself open to get hit. Did you say Kenneth Walker?
Kenneth Walker and someone called Tyler Batty.
I haven't watched Batty yet. He's a real good receiver, but I haven't watched him. I've got him on my list. But Walker,
more of a rusher.
Michigan State, yeah, he only had 19 catches in 3 years. He was 33-13. And the difference between his first couple years at Wake Forest and then this past year at Michigan State is absolutely night and day. Now, like in this past year, like he's so explosive from the handoff through the line of scrimmage. He's got that real sense of urgency, very quick acceleration, but he's also really quick laterally. So he's making cuts at full speed, and he makes guys look absolutely foolish. Very instinctive runner. So not necessarily like not necessarily needing a specific hole opened up for him, but you can almost like zone scheme where your entire line is blocking in one direction, and then he just goes down the line and figures out which hole is open. So he can do that. Real good vision, inside, outside. He's got contact balance, breaks tackles. He's absolutely abysmal in pass protection. He's lost. Like, I don't know. Have you ever watched Braveheart?
Yeah.
So there's one scene, there's a battle, and in the middle of the battle, it cuts this guy, and he's like, starts to swing his sword, and he realizes there's nobody around him, and then he goes to swing, and then he's just like, and that is Kenneth Walker in pass protection. Like he's just standing there, and guys are rushing by him, taking the quarterback out, and he has no idea where he is.
Oh no.
He occasionally will miss a cut to the outside to like run over somebody. So he'll like make a hit instead of bouncing. And he doesn't even think about being a release valve for a quarterback. So like there is no like go out in the flat and like, hey, if you're in trouble, you can throw me the ball. He's just like, nah, fam, I'm just a runner. So that's my Kenneth Walker kind of eval.
Sounds more like a Seattle running back. As for Spiller, yeah, I'm just glancing here, but I don't know. I got some questions. He's odds-on favorite to be like the running back 2-3 in this class for me, I think.
Yeah. Yep.
And I hope he goes somewhere that they don't Josh Jacobs him. It looks like someone who's gonna need or does catch the ball, and that would be a good way to utilize him.
Yep. He's not a similar runner, not a similar runner to ETN, but needs to be used similarly, if that makes sense. Like he's a lot better out in space than he is, pounding through the line. Although I guess he's a little more physical runner than ETN ever was, but not as fast. He's not real polished, so getting him in space is a nice thing.
All right. Is Saquon a sell or a hold? Hold for me, strong hold, maybe even a buy, but this time of year I don't buy running backs often, Caleb. If a sell, what should I look to acquire as a contender? It's a good question.
Oh, this is just a humble brag. I have Jonathan Taylor, Mixon,
sell Mixon for him.
Justin Jefferson, Debo, DJ Moore, Lockett. Like, yeah. Look, if you're gonna sell Saquon on that team, get picks and just keep rolling.
Yeah, if I'm trading anything off that team for Saquon, it's probably Mixon at this point. But
well, no, I think he has Saquon plus all of this.
Oh well, then sell Mixon. I mean, I don't know. That's where my head would be at for picks and value.
Yeah,
DJ Moore or Marcus Brown, and a second.
I'm taking Moore, but yeah,
DJ Moore. He even wins just on value, and also like I still have DJ Moore in my top 12. It's one of those difficult ones of we like to rank players based on when we know they're that good, but we also know the fantasy production isn't going to flow that high, but they're still that good. It's like a Mike Evans, DJ Moore. There's some other guys I can't think of right now, and that's Moore. But yeah, Moore wins this one, even for me. I love Atlanta as a spot for Brees. Yeah, because I haven't even stretched my mind to what teams need what or do well with what. I want good teams. I do want good teams, but I'm okay with bad teams. I'm kind of just sick of watching players struggle on the Jags. That's about it. Even the Texans, they don't necessarily kill talented players. They just trade them away for nothing. So I'll keep Hilaire. Clyde Edwards?
That's the only Hilaire that I know, yeah.
Well, I know many. I have Damon Williams. What should I ask for if I sell? I mean, whatever his value is, I would trade him at. He's a top 24 running back, which I tend to undervalue compared to other players. But you're looking for a first plus something that is a first but isn't a first. It's the kind of trade I'm sending.
You're trying to sneak into a first.
Honestly, the way I approach a player like Hilaire on my roster, who I believe is good, is going to keep his job and be a top 24 running back next year, is I add something to him and I go try and get one of my favorite wide receivers. That's the trade I'm looking for. I'm looking to add, 2022 first to him and get Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. Obviously, that's probably too far away from many people, but CeeDee Lamb, I'm still interested. T. Higgins. Is the guy who has T. Higgins in your league a big T. Higgins guy? Because they exist. But a first and Hilaire might seem fair to some. That's kind of my approach with it. Yeah. DJ Moore side for me. Rock knows. I think Walker is the best pure runner in the class, but he definitely needs to work on all aspects of the passing game. I think that matches up to what Zach said. Pat Watson, have you watched Kylan Williams yet? That name's ringing a bell.
I have. He is interesting because he's a little bit undersized. He's 5'9", 195. So he's not the big, but he had a 35 catch season. He had a 42 catch season and 200 plus carries. Williams is what I consider to be a pass catcher plus. it'll be interesting to see his draft capital, because if he doesn't go early, I think you're going to see him fall in rookie drafts, and he's a player that I will end up with a bunch of. He plants and goes, and he makes his cut go somewhere, which that sounds kind of intuitive, like that's what you should be doing, but not everybody does it. A lot of people make a cut and then just go laterally, but you really have to pressure advantage with a defender. Kyron Williams does that, so he'll plant and then attack a defender. So the defender not only has to make up that lateral, but he also has to make up the vertical that Kyron Williams has attacked him at. He's got really good contact balance, good vision, both inside and outside, better inside, which is strange to say for a smaller player. It's kind of the Devin Singletary a couple of years ago, where he was a smaller guy, looked like he should be on the outside playing on the perimeter, but was better inside. Kyron Williams is that way. Very, very good pass catcher and very quick transition from when he catches it to getting back to a runner. The drawbacks, I think, to me, he's tentative to run outside the tackles. I think he doesn't quite have that speed to get out there, and so I think that's why he's a little hesitant. He gets caught from behind quite a bit on breakaway runs, and he makes too much contact for me for a smaller back. But I could see him in that mold of like an Eckler, a Breida, a Phillip Lindsay, where he's a smaller back who ends up getting a bigger role. But initially, I think he's just gonna be a pass catcher.
Weird. I thought Gio, but that's just an older name.
So, that's same thing
you're
idea.
mentioning.
Yep.
Like a day 2 back or a rookie second round pick with upside was my initial thought. Just looking over here.
But it's funny. Like he's my number 4 running back, maybe 5. I think 5 because I had Brian Williams ahead of him, but
not a strong class.
Yeah,
but interesting players. Joannis loves the running back analysis, by the way. I agree. And also she agrees, Joe, I personally see Chubb like running quick. Wow, that's strong even for me.
Quicker than Chubb, but doesn't have the long speed that Chubb does and doesn't crease run. Like Chubb is really fun to watch. And Jonathan Taylor was similar. They don't need a hole. So I think Walker needs a hole. Like he's really good at finding the hole, but he needs one. Like Chubb and Jonathan Taylor, there can be nothing there, and all of a sudden they'll be on one side of the line, and then they'll be on the other side of the line, and then they'll be gone 60 yards. And I don't think that Walker does that, but he is, for my money, the best runner in this class. Like I'll agree with you there, but I'm not quite ready to give him the Chubb, type.
I can clearly see the rushing production, which matches up to what essentially saying, and just not. Chubb must be doing so much with what he's given to be
so good.
So few running backs profile as adding points, and from he's a different level of rushing talent. So I'd be surprised to find another one just in a lower class in the second tier. But I mean, Walker's definitely clearly. I mean, literally just takes a glance to see the production.
It's so interesting. It's so interesting with Walker though, because if you watched his stuff at Wake Forest, it was not like it was pedestrian. Like it was not great. All of a sudden he got to Michigan State and whatever that, I don't know if it's a zone scheme now. And so like they're allowing him to kind of freestyle a little bit, but it was night and day. And even the, like how quickly he attacked is different.
Better coaching, better line, maybe. It could be that's the thing. It can be many things, but he best year is a factor for running backs, and he hit it. And Matthew Allen just traded away Swift, Rondo Moore, and a 23-second for
Aaron Jones.
I'm gonna guess
Waddle and a 23 first. That's a win.
Yeah. Waddle side easy. Painful. I love Rondo Moore, and I was wrong enough to be upset about it with Waddle.
I feel that. I mean, he was in my top tier. Like I'd love Rondo more.
I heard Kalen compared to Eckler before, but I only seen a few highlights.
I mean, he's not rocked up like Eckler is jacked. Like
he's really jacked.
Like
one of the first things while researching him, because he didn't have rookie stats because of where he played, I had to go, humble research him. And the first thing I found was an article about his calf muscles.
Yeah, he is rocked up. Like I have one of my favorite GIFs is Eckler doing one-arm pull-ups while reading a book, and he's just pulling himself up reading. And like Kyren Williams is not like, he's not going to be that type of back. Like, at least not initially when he gets to the end. Like, he's 195 pounds, but he does have that compact style, that pass catching, the potential to add extra to his game like Eckler did.
Yeah, Gio can't do that thing either, but he's pretty good. I'm guessing very few can do that thing. Chris Olave or Drake London? Right now, I have Olave slightly ahead of Drake London. That's because I think there's a little tea leaf reading with Drake London going on. With Olave, I was a little disappointed, but again, I already talked about earlier. Investigating that second season, there was a lot of meat on that team that final year, and I allow a little muting. He still went over the thresholds mostly. I think that's the thing though. Olave looks good, and the guy that was, what did we call him? That was this year, looks like the type of player we're usually thirsting over. Drake London
Jigba
looks like he could be Olave. What did I say about London? I wanted to like London a lot. He's someone I highlighted. Like, this is a guy I'm going to tell Zach I love. And Zach was like, "Oh, I'm going to fight you over him." And then I can't wait. And I was like, "Yeah." Let's see. I'm not saying I'm overly favorable to players with names straight out of detective noir novels. I'm just saying if he goes to the Colts, him and Jock Doyle should be introduced and maybe start a TV sitcom of some sort. Also, he has better stats than the wide receiver one in 2021 than Pittman did in 2019 and Amon-Ra did in 2020. Like, he outproduced them in the same situation the following year. But they were all only slightly over the age curve, if you know what I mean. Sorry, you go, Zach.
Oh, no. Like, London, to me, has the strongest hands in the class, but it's a good thing he does because, I said this to you earlier, but I'm pretty sure he has monophobia, which is the fear of being alone. Like, he's never more than like 6 inches away from a defensive back. Like, he does not separate at all. London's really good post catch. Is more agile than I expected. Like, he's 6'5", 210. Like, you don't expect him to be quick and have contact balance, but he is. He can add yards after the catch. He's a plus blocker, which doesn't matter to your fantasy team, but does matter to his NFL team and does matter to getting on the field. Like, he pancakes guys. He will lay out a cornerback on a run block to his side. And like I said, he's very, very good in traffic. He has a bad habit of finding a defender in zone and just sitting next to him rather than finding the hole and sitting there, which is not something you like to see. He also body catches fairly often, double catches fairly often, which is not going to fly in the NFL. Like, they're going to be cornerbacks who it's what they get paid to do, and they're going to knock the ball out. I think he is going to need to have a quarterback who is willing to throw the ball up when he's not necessarily open for him to be successful. So you not somebody like Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott has to see the open and then throw. Burrow does that. Burrow's really good at trusting his receiver to be open, even though he doesn't look open. So that's the type of quarterback I think you're going to need to see with London to be successful. Otherwise, he's just like J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. Like, I hate to say that, but that's the vibe I get. Yeah, that's right, Peter. I remember you liked Arcega-Whiteside.
Yeah, to cut and go points on Williams, he doesn't bounce for a small guy.
Yeah, but I think it's because he's not fast enough. Like, I think he knows he's not fast enough to get the outside.
Players who do things to take advantage of what they have is actually not a bad thing, if you know what I mean.
No, certainly.
Would you trade 1.07 and early 23 first for Swift? Not this time of year, man. You can get that. You can go ahead and do that just before the season starts, after this gauntlet that running backs have to run. I'd keep the draft capital, watch it accumulate value and then try later. Parker Watson, he's a nasty pass blocker, which should keep him on the field as a rookie. Cool. Khalil Mack, trading Lance for Kittle plus a 204. Trey Lance for Kittle on 204. It's a
1.5 tight end premium. Yeah, I do that. Yep.
Yeah, fine. Just any side that doesn't have Lance. I think Olave is extremely competent. That's a word I come up with a lot in this class. Like, this guy is clearly competent, actually. But there's nothing exciting about him. I don't need excitement, but I get what you mean. He's a Big Mac without the special sauce. Screw you. No, he's a second.
But 2 all-beef patties and the sesame seed bun, so we're all good.
I think London. I mean, if we're talking about Pickens and Wilson as a late first-round pick, I think Olave is going to be in that conversation. But that's a best guess with nothing much to go on. Conference and production.
People are going to be talking about this class and being really excited about this class, and especially the Devi guy, because
there's going to be a lot of navel gazing on this class.
Well, this is what I've found, and this is why the way I do my analysis is the way I do my analysis. Is I don't listen to anybody about the class until after I have done all of my watching and done all of my write-ups, because I don't want to get colored by other people's analysis. But I think what you're finding now is more and more Devi analysis, which means guys get attached to these players for 2, 3, 4 years, and it's so hard for them to let go of that. Like, I saw him first, and he was this, Olave, as a sophomore, came out and had 840 yards and 12 touchdowns, and everyone was like, oh yeah, this is Olave. And last year I did my eval because I thought Olave was coming out, and he would have been my wide receiver 7 just behind Jalen Waddle. Like, he would have been in that tier of guys that I was interested in. But this year he's still down there, and it's like, okay, like this class is just not, it's not that exciting. It's okay. There's probably going to be someone. It may be Olave.
I think I'll be higher on Olave just because I'm willing to say that he was more impressive last year, and this year it's slightly depreciated despite being impressive. Depreciated because the amount of sheer volume that had to be spread across numerous good players, Wilson, Jackson apparently, and Chris himself, who what did he play this year? 11 games? No, he was playing. He just kind of got cuckolded by Jack. That fella's
Jackson
impressive.
Smith and Chigba,
that fella
awesome.
is impressive. I'm sorry.
So good.
As this podcast started, I found out about this guy, like literally just looking for Olave stats. And the tweet I put out was, screw what anyone says about this class. Trade for picks. It might be this guy. Jackson Smith. I'm not even going to attempt it just yet. That's the most impressive rookie season in college I've seen. After looking at this entire class, it's a guy that might be drafted in 2 years.
So, Peter, I'm going to help you out. You just call him JSN.
I'll learn it. I learned to say ETN. I'm good.
Yeah.
These are very normal names. It's not like this is just a weird name. I just suck at words. I know this. It's okay. But yeah, I'm willing to give him that. Olave, that is. What was I going to say? I actually am most interested in the 2 players that are on my list that are immediately in the interesting, let's look at them more category that haven't been even asked about. Those are the ones that are piquing my interest right now. I wonder if anyone cares, or if it's just me and I'll get value on all of them, both of them. I think Olave is going to be underwhelming in rookie drafts, which I understand, but yeah, people got to put context. He was playing with studs at OSU. Much more succinct. Appreciate it. Olave going to get great draft capital, in my opinion. I do think he's going to be drafted. I think he's going to be a late first. I think we're going to be disappointed if we think he's the guy we're all getting in the second. But it's really early. Jacob Smith, I got the 2nd and 3rd overall picks. Should I keep or trade them away? As a rule, trade them away. Keep rolling that value forward. As a rule, that's what I'm trying to do. If I can't get good value, then I make my picks. Austin Springer. Agree, Dave. Sorry, it's funny. Jacob Smith, would you take, or who would you take with the second and third? I have literally no conception right now.
Whoever's available between Burks and
Brees Hall, and then probably running back to wide receiver 2 to be named.
Yeah.
Spiller, depending on draft capital, it could even be Trey McBride.
You don't know.
Doubt it. But yeah, I've really only got 2 that I'm very confident in. So if you're asking about number 3, that gets a little more. I know Isaiah Spiller, maybe. Kenneth Walker sounds interesting if he goes to Seahawks, I guess. Appreciate the help, guys, and I do believe Wilson Olave will be top receiver out of this draft. It's interesting. I find both of them to be competent.
I like Wilson better than Olave, but yeah.
Thomas Pritchard, geez, go to sleep, guys. What even is that? Rashad greater than Marquez. I mean, you don't really have to choose. And also, screw you.
wait, you like both of them? How can you?
I do, but that's the thing. As long as this is the consensus, I don't get to like Rashad. Could you stop it?
It's like, what is it? Was it King Solomon with the baby, and you're trying to split Rashad Bateman and Marquise Brown, and you can't do it. You're like, oh.
I'm literally just let everyone else have them. It's fine. Hawk Watson, Peter, I see you have a ton of books. What's your favorite, or are they for show? A lot of them are my wife's. Like you compile 2 readers together, and I'll be honest, I haven't been able to sit down and read a book in at least a year or 2. I mostly read nonfiction, mostly for work, and even my department literally got swallowed up by another department, so I don't have a lot of that to do anymore at the moment. I can't even name the last book I read. But what is my favorite thing to read? I like nonfiction. I wish I like fiction. I wish I liked nonfiction more because I got a lot I want to learn. But I really like fiction. Classic detective novels. Honestly, I read a lot of. If it's just me in my free time, I've read a lot of Agatha Christie because she's underrated. I'm sorry. In college, I was trying to read all the big books, and my wife was literally because she knew I liked Hercule Poirot and a lot of those types of, when they were turned into TV shows. She's like, "Have you read the books?" I'm like, "Oh, why did I read Agatha Christie? I got so much to read. I just finished off War and Peace, don't you know?" And I sat down and read it, and she is incredibly skilled with the English language. It's actually, you don't get that successful unless you can write a thing or 2. She's not flowery or stuff, but she's good. So yeah, that's what a lot of what I read for fun. Last book I remember reading that's actually published this side of the turn of the century. It's called Girl Trouble. I'm trying to remember the name of the author.
I missed that one. I've been on a Joe Hill kick, so
I've read a lot of Joe Hill. This one's a little more literary, and she knows it, but it was actually phenomenal. Holly Goddard Jones, she wrote a book called Girl Trouble, and it's a collection of short stories, and I do enjoy short stories, sue me. It's some of the best writing I've seen in my generation, honestly. It got lots of prizes and written up in the New York Times, so obviously no one's ever heard of it. But her writing actually blew me away. It's the first time I've opened up a book written by someone roughly my age and gone, whew, like that noise came out. It was incredible prose. And it was also it's actually about Western Kentucky. But obviously, once I moved here, I got really interested in learning about the history, but also reading the fiction and novel stuff. I've gone on way too long about this. And that was published several years ago, but that's the last one I remember reading. A lot of what's on there is also not Holly Goddard Jones, that's the one I just mentioned. It's Anne Rice, and to out my wife, she reads a lot of, what's it called? Those cheap, junky novels that she loves. Nora Roberts. She loves Nora Roberts. Just to out my intellectual wife. There's a whole shelf. It's just Nora Roberts down there.
Sometimes you just need to let the hamster rest, and
she'll defend it. Wuthering Heights was junk in its time too, she'll say. But I've also read a ton of Stephen King because of my wife. My wife turned me on to a lot of popular literature that's actually good that I dismissed because I was so smart in college. And
Stephen King and his Joe Hill's son,
they
turn.
I read Horns.
They turned. Horns was great. The Fireman was great. A couple of his short stories were really good. 20th Century Ghost, I dig them, but because I don't always like this. Like Stephen King, I don't always like his stories, but I always like his writing, which sounds weird, but
I'm trying to see. I was going to try and point out my wife writes, and that's mostly how we bought the house. But I can't. I've got a whole shelf of her books. I think. Hang on.
Look, man, Parker got us way off topic here. Peter's leaving the show. What could I ever get with the second and a third when it comes to trade value? So what I usually do when you've got a second and a third, so 102 and you're talking 102 and 103.
No, my wife turned me on to a lot of Appalachian type authors, and the one I remember the hardest is Father and Son. I always have a trouble remembering his name as well, but he was pretty impressive. But anyway, the bookshelves go around the corner, and the other ones are just full of my wife's books. So there you go.
Nice.
My wife. Plugging my wife's books. But yeah, it's a whole mixture of stuff, to be honest. I like talking about books. No one ever asked me. I apologize. I'm moving back on. I forgot to mention, I get it. I go to the OSU. Well, that explains a lot, Kyle. Khalil? I think I'm pronouncing. Yeah, it's Khalil. Sorry. Have Russell Wilson in 3 out of 5 dynasty leagues. Am I in trouble? No. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. I do think if his value's dropping, especially, you said, yeah, he's literally one of the few quarterbacks that can put up 40 points in a week and you're not surprised.
Yeah.
I don't think you're in trouble.
Go trade for Tyler Lockett and pair them. And when they have the weeks where Lockett goes off as your wide receiver 3, you win.
You were talking about Joe Hill, and that's what... I can't remember the name of that guy. Guy in my league is looking to move Elijah Mitchell and McLaurin. Thoughts on value insulation?
I don't think there is any.
No, there's no. He's a running back.
He's a running back. And he's a 6th round. Yeah.
He's looking for tight ends. I have Kittle. Goddart's going to be an interesting. If you're looking for a tight end this offseason, Goddard's someone I'd hang on to.
Yeah, I think Goddard's on the come up.
And Kittle's undervalued because you've got Pitts and you've got Mark Andrews, and Kittle was a little disappointing this season. So I think you're set at tight end is the one thing I would say. I don't think you need tight ends. But you do have one to trade away, to be fair. But both of those are a little undervalued. I don't want to navel gaze this too long. I don't want to trade Kittle or Goddard at that value. I think Mitchell's value is a little too high right now, given the risk of the offseason for him. McLaurin might be a possible trade target. I'm not. Is there any way you would trade Kittle or Goddard for McLaurin?
I mean, I trade Goddard because he's a tight end, and even though I think he's going to be a good tight end, I don't mind doing that and because you've seen McLaurin be a borderline wide receiver 1, like production wise, not just like value and making stuff up, because that's what we do in fantasy football. So I could see trading a tight end who should be a top 12 tight end for a wide receiver who could be a top 12 wide receiver. But
this was his the most common breakout year into the top 12. But that doesn't mean anything necessarily, because we know the player is good. The situation improves, and his co-op, he doesn't have the running back issue I was talking about earlier. We've already seen him co-op the volume he needs. It's just the team's volume sucks. So I don't mind targeting him. And if you can get a trade with Goddard for McLaurin, I think Elijah Mitchell is just going to make it too pricey. But if he's looking to move it, maybe not. Oh, what happened there? Can you hear me, Zach?
I can hear you, but I lost you. I can't see your beautiful face anymore. Now I lost you completely. Burks and Wilson, I'm expecting to be the top 2 drafted wide receivers, but could see Olave being right there. Yeah, see, I think I still think that George Pickens is going to get draft capital out of Georgia if he declares. And I haven't seen him if he's declared yet. And I know he tore his ACL in the spring. But hey, Peter, I could see George Pickens being up there in terms of draft capital with Wilson and Burks.
Sorry, I just think my hamster's getting tired. I apologize about that. What are we talking about?
I just talked to Ashton about Burks and Wilson, but
okay. Toronto Dave, I read a lot of Hardy Boys growing up. Yeah, I read a lot of Enid Blyton, and I guess that it's an English youth detective story writer, and I guess that accounts for a lot of my snobbery in books, because I later found out in my teens that the reason she wrote youth books is because she couldn't make it as an actual writer, and she thought kids are stupid, so my bad prose will sell, and it worked. That's literally the story of Enid Blyton. And I was like, I've been getting conned thinking I'm reading good books, but I enjoyed them. I actually listened. Actually, big advocate for books on tape back in the day, because I like to go to sleep listening to Enid Blyton once upon a time. It's basically the Hardy Boys, Nancy Drew of England, I guess, when I was growing up, at least. 49ers could easily go out and add Melvin Gordon or day 2 rookie running back. Do we think he's no. I mean, this team works well this team works well despite the Drew Lock and Jerry Jeudy fear in fantasy. They're getting a lot out of this system. They kind of seem to like it. I don't think they get rid of Gordon.
But he's talking about the 49ers and Mitchell and whether or not they add somebody. No. And he says that the Niners are notorious for running back by committee. I don't think they are. I think they're notorious for whoever, if somebody gets hurt, you don't have your job anymore, which is different than running back by committee.
That's a myth of the 49ers. Like, who will it be? It's a running back one. And they produce well until they're injured, then it's the next guy. It's not it's not a mystery who it is. It's just if they will get hurt, and then it's immediately the next guy.
Yeah. Like, except for Trey Sermon, it's not Trey Sermon. Whatever.
Well, he was never the next guy. And so, it was Elijah Mitchell. And so it's probably never going to be Trey Sermon. It'll be Mostard again, or like you say, anyone they pick up that's decent enough to do it. Unless it's Rashad Penny, apparently, whatever. 4th and 1. Also, is it even worth moving Goddard with his value insulation compared to Mitchell? Mitchell seems like a way higher upside play, though. I think Goddard's I honestly think he's on my list of players that could elevate next year in overall production.
So here's the thing, though. If you've got a guy in your league that's looking to trade Mitchell and get a tight end, and you can get Mitchell for Goddard, you can turn around and trade Mitchell for more than Goddard. Like, you can. And so that's the rub, I think, right now is, yes, value insulation for Goddard because he's a tight end. No, Mitchell doesn't have value insulation. But right now, Mitchell has way more value. Like, Mitchell is in the top, 15 or 16 running backs right now, according to ADP. And if you quick flip him while people are still excited, great.
If you trade the trade, it makes sense. But that's kind of why I'm also not trying to trade for Mitchell. But if you've got a guy willing to trade, I'm always willing to explore it. So Zach's making a good point. You can make a decent trade to trade.
I'm getting so much better at trading. Just listening to Russ and his, the Trade Addict show, it has made such a huge difference.
Absolutely. I talked to him some weeks on this show, and even I've gotten a little better, and I suck at it. I hate trading a trade. Where do we think the value fall off could be for the 2022 class?
The value is going to fall off at 103.
Yeah. I have the 2 point. I mean, there will be good players drafted later, but the certainty with which one of those players it will be at the 103 tanks.
Yeah.
I have the 206, thinking of moving it before it's too late. I honestly think, as typically happens, the 206 will be most valuable on the clock.
Yeah, that's probably true, because somebody will like somebody that's still available.
But I have been in leagues where I've played it that way, and then just no one's interested on the clock. So I get it.
Have you ever?
Yeah, you can start fishing now, but don't trade it just to trade it. Like, it's not about timing; it's about the trade offer.
Have you ever been in a league where you were on the clock in the second round and somebody offered you a first round pick for that for that pick.
Absolutely. Again, it's about the offer, not the timing. I'm going to stick to that mantra. Wow, Dave skipped over my question. Who's Dave?
I don't
know. You said correct? And
correct.
We answered this one, right? What could I even get for the second and third when it comes to trade value? No, we didn't answer that one.
No, I started to, and then you came back with books.
Oh, sorry. What could I even get for a second and third round rookie pick and trade value? Again, I don't know.
Yeah, it depends. Kind of put feelers out. You know your league better than we do.
I tend to see seconds and thirds of things I will add to other trades.
But no, he was talking about he has the 102 and 103.
Right. Yeah. You could get a lot even right now. Rookie picks are the currency of Dynasty. I mean, we need Bruss here at this point because we've listed off numerous players that are worth a first round pick that literally boil my noodle. Because I'm like, why would you trade the production away for a simple first round pick and the second and third pick for sure? Right. But again, even I'm willing to say the first three picks have in the value curve, to put it in someone else's. So you should get a lot more for them, especially if it's Superflex, if I remember right. So you can get a lot.
What about something in like the AJ Brown, T Higgins, that range? You think we could get that done for the 102 and 103? And would you do that? I would rather have the player.
Yeah. And so this is where we go back to player targets and where they are on teams in your leagues. It's not so much about who you can get as who you want to get and who's available at that value in your league. My first tier of players that I'm interested in are obviously Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. Beyond that, it's CeeDee Lamb and T. Higgins.
And Waddle.
You just see, Waddle, and you see who you can fish for and which rosters they're on. Yep. Now, the Javonte Smith, Elijah Moore tier is one I'm interested in, but you should be getting pluses with those guys to move the 102 and 103. A lot of people will be gun shy about that, which is why I'd add a name higher. Yeah. But yeah. Stephen King totally changed after he was hit by the car. Yeah, it was an interesting transition, wasn't it? Totally understandable. I recommend Dave Kuntz. Yeah, I like reading a lot of King. I like the fact he writes introductions and writes to the reader at the start of most of his books. Like, I really enjoy those sections where he talks to us.
Have you ever read his on writing?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I did. It's brilliant.
I was trying to be a writer at one point. I found it to be the most useful of the writing. And I read George Orwell's book on it as well, which was mostly rules on grammar and shit. But Stephen King's was deeply interesting. But no, I've been to Maine. Zach's from Maine. When I was in Maine, I was walking around, honestly, kind of hoping I'd bump into Stephen King. Didn't happen.
I met him once. Did I tell you about that? No.
Yeah, I met a woman who met him once, and I was actually a little starstruck because she met him once.
It's kind of I don't intend it to sound like, but like when I was in high school, I was a pretty good baseball player, and he built the field in Bangor, the Mansfield Stadium, which is where they play like all of the major games. So like the All-Star games and so I made the senior All-Star Classic and by accident ended up getting the MVP. I came into pitch behind a guy who was throwing about 96 and got drafted by the Blue Jays. And I was not throwing 96. And so I must have looked really slow. So I ended up doing very well. And so after the game, I'm in the dugout getting myself, dressed to get ready to go. And somebody's like, Zach, Stephen King is out here waiting for you. And so I'm like half in my jockstrap, like half in my shirt, half in my uniform. I walk out and he's standing there waiting and this is the field that he built. And he like waits for me to shake my hand. And I'm like, okay, well, this is probably as close to being a good writer as I will ever get. But it was kind of cool.
Sorry, I'm looking something up before I click on the next one. I'm pretty sure he wrote this book. Yeah. Where was I? I recommend Dean Koontz. That's the one that hit me. I really enjoyed the Odd Thomas series for about 2 books, and then I don't know what happened with me and Kuntz. I felt like it got. I don't know. I'm not a literary critic. I felt formulaic. I felt like he was rolling out something I wasn't interested in anymore, and I stopped reading. I did really enjoy the story, especially, but also the book Intensity. That was Dean Kuntz one. I thought it was a really interesting take on like a horror novel and that whole kind of. It was horrific. That kind of genre. I thought that was some of his best. I have Alan Robinson, and I want to trade him. You and everyone with Alan Robinson. I kid, Revit. Once he moves to a new team, good strat. Wait till some news happens, then try and trade him. Should I trade him right now when he signs? I would trade him whenever you get a value bump, whenever someone in your team league is actually interested in paying for him. And if you can get anywhere close to a first round pick, like at a certain point, I just stopped making excuses. He should be better than he has been. He still has the upside, I believe, in talent, but I can't keep hoping that he does it again for whatever reason. So again, it's about the trade, not the timing, but I think waiting for positive news is a good way to try to find the right trade. And anywhere near a first round pick, even in players or in literally a first round pick in 23 or 24, I'll be interested in. Zach's about the same or different?
Yeah, no, you hit that one spot.
Nice. Summon is never the guy. Yeah, turns out. You have to, for now, I think it's a strong, that's the only way to find a good trade for him. I'm just curious if I move him off immediately after signing or holding, going on to a new season. That's why I'm drawing it. Like, if you can get something close to a first round pick right now, trade him. If not, wait for positive news. That would be the way I'd go.
Yeah. Listen, I mean, you can take the temperature of if you're on Twitter or listen to podcasts, if people are really excited about where Allen Robinson landed, ship him. If they're not, then you got to hang on and wait for something good to happen.
Toronto Dave read Moby Dick, way too young to appreciate any of it. I read it in college, so I was technically old enough, but I was in my asshole phase where I was reading it to say I've read Moby Dick, and that's also not the best way to appreciate it. I have since gone back and actually appreciated it. But yeah, motivation for reading a book is actually important. That's where I learned that. Same with Crime and Punishment. I read that to have read it, and it wasn't until years later I went back and actually appreciated the book. Keep trade cut, Chark, Gallup, Juju, all injured wide receivers going to free agency. Yeah, Juju's on my list. I think Gallup.
Cut Chark. Like, he's the guy that I would get rid of. And then
sorry, I forgot it was a keep trade cut. I would cut Chark so hard.
I'd probably keep Juju and trade Gallup.
I'm surprised he's on rosters still.
It's the song. It's that DJ Chark. do.
Yeah. I agree. Cut Chark, keep Juju. Always keep Juju. And trade Gallup. But it's painful to trade Gallup, but I do it. Stephen King's best work is On Writing. It's outstanding. I don't think it's the best, but I really do think it's good. I've read some of his nonfiction as well. Since we're talking about Moby Dick, and I'll drop in my favorite author to recommend is Arthur Kessler. Just read that shit. It's his second language, and he uses this English language better than any English speaker I've ever heard or read. He's good. And also just because I like fucking with my head, read Kafka. I really enjoy Kafka.
Yeah.
Like, I'm almost glad he never actually got to go back and finish his novels because they are so hard to read. But when you get into it,
I dropped the Kafka reference on Toronto Dave on Dave the other day, and
like his best work is literally unfinished and is rated as one of the best works ever written. Again, not written in English, not his first language, but the trial is. Shockingly irrelevant, especially right now, actually, now I think about it. Any dystopian future. Where was I?
Mike McDonald, 15th round.
Who was that guy who got drafted by the
Mike McDonald? Yeah, Mike McDonald. He's from Rockland.
Sweet. Thanks, guys. No problem. It's 1 a.m, Zach. Just let me know if you have to go.
I do.
Janice, what do you guys think about keep trade cut? Is it really useful, or is it? If
That's
it feels
not.
very...
But people like to do it because it's a little pithy, like.
I think it's good to put yourself on the line. It's like my list of wide receivers being too long. You eventually have to cut it down and just own the tape, because I'm trying to give the best advice I can without just telling you to do what I do, because that's not honestly the best thing to do all the time. Like you, so I think it's a worthy exercise to really push yourself to a keep trade cut type decision. But ultimately, yeah, Zach, right? It's kind of just a pithy thing.
I mean, it's a pithy little like, how do you rank these players?
Yeah. My fantasy teams are Kafkaesque. Did I use that right? I would have to see
the metamorphosis. Like you wake up and they're a beetle.
I mean, yeah, you'd have to some weird ass
Could be a
shit.
dystopian future. Could happen.
Using it right in the context of that's the type of word it is, but I have to see your roster to know. All right, Zach has a family and a life and self-respect, so he has to go. So I've got to cut the stream short. I really appreciate you guys sticking around and talking so much, though, because this is fun every week. And the fact we're technically in the off season and still getting this means that I get to keep doing it. So keep coming back. I really appreciate it. Thanks to Zach for sticking through this for so long. We'll see you again. Maybe Zach, maybe even Dynasty Outhouse, but probably not.
Can I plug the Dynasty dummies? Like I know that
definitely.
I don't usually do this, but like we're gonna have shows next week about rookies. We're gonna start our rookie evaluations. Me and J Mike and Matt Foreman are gonna do the rookie roundup, square dance, hoedown. It's a hoot nanny in here, whatever it is, but we're gonna talk rookies for the next 6 weeks or so. So join us. You can find us Dynasty Dummies, and that's my plug. I just if people enjoy,
and I'm not plugging. I legitimately just make sure I listen to that show every year. It's great. You get a variety of opinions. They're fair. They're balanced. They don't tell you this is the best guy ever. They'll give you a fair assessment.
Did you just Fox News me? Fair and balanced.
Aren't you Fox News? I thought no. Oh, okay. TMCR, whatever. No, it's really fun podcast too. Like most of them are funny, unlike Zach, so it works. It works pretty good. No, Zach's, as you know, Zach's funny as well, and J Mike's going to be on it as well.
Yeah, he's hosting. He's fantastic. He's much
best
better
host
than I am.
Best host no money can buy, but also money can buy if money was involved. He's wonderful. Yeah, I'm happy to talk books as well, but like I say, all my book references are too far out of date. Actually, when you started mentioning Joe King stuff, my wife keeps me vaguely up to date because she's still a voracious reader, which is how the shows keep reading up. And she told me about King Jr. Shall I?
Yeah, Joe Hill. Yeah, he's fantastic. Good stuff.
He's pretty good. Yeah. Sorry, I was gonna build you into a conversation there, but I realized going out. Talent isn't genetic, but no, just got lucky, I guess. Anyway, guys, we're out of here. Listen to the Dynasty Dummies Hootenanny. Come see us again 9:30 next week, Eastern Standard Time. That's what it means, EST, Eastern Standard Time. Really appreciate it, but we're going to get out of here for now so that Zach doesn't kill me or something.
I'm just going to fall asleep in my notes.
Thanks. See you again next week. Bye.